Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in. 2-5 No Limit Hold'em Best Bet Live. Looks like we're already into the first hand of the night. If you guys are just joining us, we're going to have a special guest commentator joining us. We're going to have Bart Hansen from Crush Live Poker tuning in. He's going to jump in and join us for some hands. Bart, are you there? Can you hear us? All right, looks like first hand of the night. Russ taking it down. Aces and fours with the 10. Scott not getting away from it too easy, though. Scott's going to try to buy it one time. Looks like he's about to fire 80 into it. $65. Snap call from Russ one time. Gets the check mark. Russ takes down the first pot of the night. 287 in the middle. Easy game. All right, guys, button moves, and we're on to the second hand of the night. Thanks for tuning in. 2-5, no limit, hold'em, deep stack cash, 200 min, 1,500 max.
Do you guys hear me?
Second hand of the night.
Do you guys hear me?
Bart Hansen, tuning in.
Do you hear me?
I hear you, Bart. Check, check. You hear me?
I do. Nice.
Hey, man, I think you're live. I think you're hanging out with us. Thanks for tuning in. Best Bet Live. How's it going?
All right. Yeah, it's going well. Going well. I got a friend here at this table. His name is Russ. He's a CLP subscriber. And I'm excited to do some remote commentary here. I did this for a different project about 5 years ago. So this is, I know that you guys have done this like half a dozen times. So I think it's a good thing to be able to get anybody in here that you want, basically.
Yeah, what a cool tool, right? And you can literally tune in from anywhere in the world and watch poker with us here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, that is great. I had a great time when I came down there. I think it was in October. And yeah, I'm looking to possibly come down again for the Best Bet Bounty.
Yeah, let us know. Keep us posted. We'll get a live stream game going for you, and we'll either get you in the booth or we'll get you on the table. Whatever you want to do.
Sounds good. So we're playing some, what is it, 2-5 deep stack here tonight?
Playing a little 2-5 deep. So our normal stack sizes for the room, we let them buy in from 2 to 800, but for this deep stack game, we let them buy in for up to 15. So 2 min, 15 max.
2 min, 15 max. I mean, I love that game. I love deep stack $5 blind level. Where I come from in LA, it's unfortunate that they don't really have a deeper stack type of format for something like that. But it's you know, I love it. I love the deep stack play. Looks like we got two guys here with the same hand going for the same gut shot, and they both pair up at the end. So it's probably going to go check, check as I get acclimated here, I imagine, because this was a 3-bet pot. And I've done a fair amount of training videos from Jacksonville footage, you know, in the past. It doesn't seem like at this level there's like a ton of 3-betting that goes on.
Sure, yeah, there's a lot in these smaller stakes games here on the live stream. We have a lot of multi-way limp or single raise pots. That seems to be a running theme here on our live stream games.
Well, I mean, that's sort of a reflection of a lot of 2-5 levels, games levels, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Looks like this one goes check, check on the river. They're both going to pick up a big blind button in the 3-bet pot. Both pick up one big, button moves, and we're on to the next one.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to promote this via my social media, different things, you know, the Instagram and the Twitter. I put out a tweet that I was going to be doing this. And sometimes when you play like on a live stream, the game doesn't really play like a normal game. This guy looks like Aussie Matt a little bit over here in seat 7, the big PLO player. I mean, he looks a little bit like him, but sometimes you don't. It's not really it's not really reflective of a real game. Whereas I feel like Jacksonville's always really been, kind of reflective, except when I play against George at 10.25. But besides that, at this level, it's pretty, pretty. I would say that this is how a lot of games play around the country.
That's pretty cool. We love that. We love that the viewers can tune in and watch and get a real feel for what an actual 2-5 game is like. Looks like we got an open from Scott here in the hijack, opening king-queen offsuit to 20. See, this is what we were talking about. We usually pick up a couple multi-way single raise pots, probably the most common thing that you see here on the live stream game.
Yeah, and that was kind of like what it used to be like at the Commerce, where I cut my teeth, I would say 10 years ago in the 5-10 game. It was a 5-10, 1500 cap game. There wasn't a whole lot of 3-betting going on. A lot of multi-way pots, and that's kind of what I try to teach in my in some of my training is the non-GTO stuff, the exploitation and how to approach a lot of multi-way pots. It looks like Chad here with ace-9 turned aces up, and I believe he had just limp called, which is consistent with what you were saying.
Right. Yeah, you see a lot of that going on. Looks like he limp called the. I think he was getting a good price. I think he closed the action, so I think he was getting a pretty good price there with the ace-9.
Yep. And he just takes it down. So Russ over here in seat 6, I've known him for a long time. He was active on the live at the bike forums back in the day when we first started in 2005. He was one of the original posters. Been a long time CLP subscriber, pretty solid player, and I know he's played on this stream quite a bit.
Yeah, actually, if anybody's interested on our YouTube channel, we archive all of our past streams, and you guys can go back. Russ is definitely a best bet live reg. He plays on all the live. He plays the 2-2 deep, the 2-5 deep. He's always the first one on the list. He puts in a ton of volume on the live stream. Great guy, nice guy also.
By the way, so I have the YouTube and the Twitch chat up as well, so I'm going to be following along in the chat. And this is quite the setup. I'm still a little bit I'm impressed. Like I said, I did this like 4 or 5 years ago, and then there were a lot of projects that sort of struggled with it, trying to do this, remotely. I think it's a little bit taxing to bring in like video sometimes, like it's overwhelming for the system, but I think the audio is totally doable. Oh, we got a 3-bet here.
Here we go.
So ace-king offsuit here, 3-bet to 70. Real small sizing here. So open to 25 from +3 and a call here from the cutoff with 8s. A lot of people might 3-bet that hand, and of course an initial limp from pocket 5s, and it looks like this guy's going to play the power limp call from the +1.
The power limp call, I like that.
Yep, with 5-5, and once again we're going to go multi-way. I think one of the things that you can think about when you're going to 3-bet from out of position is just like 4 times the raise size, maybe plus the limpers if you sometimes struggle with your sizing. So I mean that's a really, really small 3-bet. From Joaquin, I guess, from the small blind there. And it looks like he's going to c-bet out here on 6-6 deuce for $105. I mean, I'm all for continuing with the lead. I think at a certain point, once you get over, say, maybe 3 or more players, a lot of times c-betting is you're kind of lighting money on fire a little bit. I mean, it's not really a bad texture, right? It's not a bad texture, but it's just very, very difficult to get through, and you can see that pocket 8s calls. Now, if he continues to barrel here, it's going to be hard for 8s to, continue on, but it looks like he decides to check.
So do you think when he checks the turn here, do you think he's always giving away? Basically, his hand looks like exactly what it is when he checks the turn. Would you agree?
Well, a lot of people will check when there's a pair out there, kind of as a reflection that they're scared of trips. Now, if the river hadn't been a deuce here, I actually wouldn't mind a bluff to try to get somebody off of a pair. This bet, though, is a little bit peculiar because so few people at this level will go bet, check, bet with like aces or kings. I just don't think he's going to get the fold equity that he's looking for. And you can see he just got snap called there. He also does have a little bit of showdown value with ace high, although there wasn't really a flush draw out there. But like, say, for example, the river was like a 4. So it was deuce 6-6, queen 4. And he checked the turn. The guy checked behind. When the guy checks behind, he's very rarely going to have a 6. And usually he's going to have what he's basically looks like he has, which is a pair. So you can sometimes pull kind of like a delayed double barrel where you don't bet the turn on what is a good card. You kind of see what your opponent does on the turn and then go ahead and bet the river. So, but usually you would probably just straight double barrel that turn, but then he probably would have had to given up on the river as well. So
Ace-King does not get there one time in the 3-bet pot. Pocket eights, take it down. It looks like most of the buy-ins, they didn't buy in for as deep as they normally do. I see a couple, like Greg here, calling the 20s, only got 283 behind. Joe Ken looks like he's got about 100 bigs. Usually we see a couple more players coming in for the 8,000 to 1,500 max on this game.
So Joe Kin, I think I said Joaquin. Joe Kin, like Joaquin Phoenix. Joe Kin, he's picked up Ace-King again. And once again, he's made a very small 3-bet. So this time it went 20 call, and then he 3-bet to 50, whereas I would probably make that 80 or 100. And again, he gets called in both spots, and everybody misses here, as you can see. And he's not going to, he's not going to c-bet here. See, I would probably prefer a c-bet here than in the last hand against, when he's only against 2 people as opposed to, just 1 person. He does continue to have the best hand, though. And now he's going to bet, which is quite interesting. So he checks back the flop, and now he's going to bet. And I mean, I don't know what ace deuce. I mean, I guess ace deuce has the ace of diamonds here in this particular spot. I don't know if he was thinking about, possibly doing something with the ace of diamonds or what, but he's going to let it go.
So far in the game, guys, we're a couple hands in. You can see Josh up already up 100 big blinds so far in the game. Joe Ken stuck a little bit, and that's what it looks like after 4 hands. Already had 100 big blinds shift around into Josh's stack.
How long do they usually play for before they get going on the live stream?
So that's another running theme, too. Usually when we start this thing out, everyone starts out a little slow, playing a little, close to the cusp, and then we get an hour into it, and a couple people get stuck, and then the game really opens up. I think that's probably indicative of a lot of live poker games that I've been a part of anyway also.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time for, people to start tilting off.
Yep.
Lose some pots, things like that. Get some of the chips to move around the table. So it looks like Chad here with top pair, Franco here with the ace queen. And again, I think that this was just a straight raise, a call, and queen jack in the big blind. Queen jack suited in the big blind call, which that hand could be squeezed against. Once you start to see people call with hands like ace 9 off in the field, there's a lot of money to be won actually by squeezing pre-flop, just because a lot of people are in there with a lot of trash. But that doesn't seem to be the style really all that much, like we were talking about at Jacksonville. And it looks like Chad here has check called the field better. Remember, ace queen was the raiser, so ace 9 in the field betting, queen jack calling. Now ace 9 makes aces up. And this is interesting here for Chad. I mean, you're looking at somebody who just cold called in the field, bet the flop, and now he continues to bet the turn. And you're like, well, is he betting a flush draw here? If he has the nut flush draw, he's paired up with his ace. Usually hands that have straight draws on a Jack 7-9 board are going to be paired like a Jack 10. So I might just give this one up. I mean, it's, you know, sometimes we can be, as commentators, kind of jaded by obviously seeing the cards. And I learned that early on in the Live at the Bike days. So I always try to put myself in my, you know, the decision maker's seat here. If I'm Chad and I check called flop and now the guy's firing again on turn, you know, not as the pre-flop raiser. I mean, if you use the pre-flop raiser, it's a really good, you know, I think it's a much easier fold, but he makes the right laydown.
That's the Monday morning quarterback syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can really be jaded by seeing the cards. I mean, no matter how much you try, you know, it just is what it is. I mean, I've been trying to do some stuff where I'll cover hands on YouTube and, you know, things like that, and I'll black out the cards so nobody knows, you know, what the actual holdings are. You can just sort of kind of play along, you know.
Right, absolutely. KRT88 in C says, you recommend squeeze plays from late positions in multiplayer pots, assuming if hand has some equity. Yeah, of course. I think that's something we don't see in a lot of small stakes games. What do you think, Bart?
Well, playability though too. I mean, if you get really, really short, you can start playing some of that blocker stuff where, you know, if your opponent just has one move, which is basically to 4-bet all in or to fold, then, you know, blocking some of the hands he's going to continue with is more paramount. But as people, newer school no limit starts to come through and you start to see people calling more, you want playability. Here's a great example here. So we got Russ here is actually 3-betting from the cutoff here with King 10 suited, so a suited Broadway. Now, I think that's not a mandatory 3-bet. I mean, he could call too because he's close to the button. If he's in mid position, you usually want to play a 3-better fold strategy, but he's going to take control of the hand here. And this is, you know, sort of structuring with suited hands. I remember doing some recent training why suited hands are better. You know, if you're going to get a rainbow board, you're going to flop a flush draw. You know, 66% of the time. Here he flops a backdoor flush draw. He does not c-bet, but he picks up spades on the turn. Now Franco here with an ace has a straight, and they're going to check it over here to Russ. And I think for Russ, who, you know, is going to have a fair amount of ace-x here, he's going to bet here with his backdoor flush draw.
So Chad's got the mystery cards. We're guessing he doesn't have an ace or a 6. He comes, takes a peek, and then puts those right in the muck.
Franco just calls with the bottom part of the straight. Russ is going to need to hit a spade here at the end, obviously, to improve. And it's a king, and that actually might shut the action down. Russ is not going to be forced to really bluff at it because he has showdown value, and that card may have actually saved Russ some money. People look at bad beats, and they don't look at some of the subtle things. But if that card is, say, like an offsuit 10, I can almost guarantee that Russ very well might fire again. Although Franco was the initial opener and had called the 3-bet, but you know, a lot of people, they say, "Oh, I got such a bad beat. You know, I lost set over set, or I had my aces cracked," and they don't look at, you know, the times where they save money because they pair up at the end and they were going to bluff. You know, things like that.
Right. If you guys are just joining us, we're playing 2-5, no limit hold'em, deep stack cash. We're on a 15-minute delay out of Best Bet Jacksonville. We've got myself, Dustin Shocklock, being joined by Bart Hansen of Crush Live Poker fame. And jumping right in here. We're about 10 hands in so far. Thank you guys for tuning in.
So this is pretty cool that I get to do this out of my new residency here in Austin. My wife and I were about to actually buy a house out here too. Moved out here just about a month ago after a little short stint in Las Vegas. Had to get out of California because of the taxes.
Oh,
So
wow, they're killing you, huh?
Yeah, happy to be out of California.
What's the poker scene like in Austin?
Well, the poker scene is pretty fluid here in Texas. It's sort of quasi-legal. I mean, there are card rooms, and they don't take a rake. They take a membership fee. As we see that both players here, we have a top pair, and top pair. And looks like one of the guys raised, kind of a min raise, which is sort of indicative of top pair. And you wonder how much more money these guys are going to put in to the pot here.
Greg there in the 4 seat doesn't have a whole lot behind. He's only got about 160 left. There's already 255 in the middle. Looks like they're going to shut it down. Ted Kicker good. Kingston trays with a 10. Yeah, I've heard a lot. I've heard the games play pretty wild there in Austin. I heard they do a lot of match the stack type stuff. I've seen some live streams out of the area. I think poker is pretty new to the area. And,
yeah, the blind size is pretty deceptive. Like a 1-3 plays like this game, if not larger.
Wow.
A 5-5 is sometimes like a 10-20. It's just because it's all match the stack. People are like, oh my God, you're playing 1-3. And I'm like, it's not really a 1-3 game in the traditional sense.
Oh, people say that about you scaling down to play 1-3, but in reality, the game is just huge.
Right. Bart
Sure.
Hansen's broke type of thing. Somebody asked in the YouTube chat why Live at the Bike is not streaming tonight. There's been that rash, and I think you had said that maybe it happened to you guys with your YouTube channel where something with the YouTube algorithm has been taking down a lot of poker content. It hasn't happened on my channel, but I think Live at the Bike have been victims of that, and they can't stream this week, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got stung by the same bug. Luckily, we stream on multiple platforms, so we were still able to stream on Twitch and Facebook, but they definitely locked up our YouTube channel for a little while. It took a little while to get it back, but now we're up and we're trying to obey whatever rules they want us to, whatever rules that they decided that we broke. So we're up on all 3 platforms now instead of just 2.
I can see a couple of Texas people talking up Texas poker in the YouTube live chat as well.
I heard it's wild.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going to be playing on the TCH live stream on Friday, which is a 5-10 game, which I was trying to figure out how much money I'm going to bring to a 5-10 game, because if the 5-5 plays like a 10-20, is the 5-10 game going to play like a 25-50?
Right.
And then I'm actually doing some commentary on Saturday night too. If you know Wes Cutsil, who's a new vlogger in sort of the scene, he's from Houston and he's come up once before, and he's coming up to Austin over the weekend as well.
Oh, cool.
He does a fun vlog. I don't know if you've ever caught his vlog, but it's very interesting and unique.
I think Austin's climbed its way pretty high on my poker bucket list this year. I think I got to get out there maybe before the summer.
I mean, I would say that the games aren't really high consistently out here. It would kind of be hard to, it's definitely good for, to have a good time, come and play a trip, but it would be hard to sort of grind for a living as like where I'm coming from like LA or something like that.
We got Jesse, the boss man, joining us in the chat. He's watching from his house. What's up, boss man? How's it going?
Oh, he's over in the Twitch chat. I got 2 chats up here. You know the weird thing about Twitch, I haven't been on Twitch in quite some time. You can't really pop out the chat, right?
So
Like you can, oh, actually you can pop it out now. Okay, I can
you
see it. So
can.
now, okay, I got it. So now I got
Yeah.
both chats popped out. Great.
Yeah, that's what I do. On the Twitch chat, you just have to switch it to non-mod settings, and you can pop it out. Move it around, put it wherever you want.
Got it. Oh, so if you're on the mod settings, you can't pop it out. And I think that's what it was when I was doing live at the bike commentary. I could never figure out how to pop it out.
Flip it into non-mod, and then you'll
Yeah.
see an option for pop-out, and you can move it and put whatever you want to do with it.
Great.
Looks like a button straddle this hand. Out of Franco there in the 2 seat. It's going to be 10 to call. Action's going to start in the small blind. Josh just calling with the mystery cards. I like Russ coming in for a raise here, trying to take care of some of that dead money out there. After
Yeah,
look
look at
straddle
that.
and just a limp. What do you think, Bart?
Well, I mean, why not, right? Button straddle, so the blinds are going to act in order. I mean, you could say it's a little bit light from up front, but, you know, it's the bottom part of his range, the 4-5 suited, and, you know, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Looks like it worked. Russ took that one down.
I mean, the thing about no limit is that it's not, you know, I think people try to apply a lot of these sort of computer modeling and solver work and stuff to like a live game like this, and they misapply it, because if you were really trying to play like theoretical and there's no antes in this game, you could play like 10% of your hands if people are playing ranges as if they're antes. That's what David Skolansky actually said about no limit back before the poker boom. He said no limit's a dead game. It should be a dead game. No limit poker is supposed to be played with antes. That's why you see it no limit deuce, single draw, 5-card draw. It's not supposed to be no ante. But with the moneymaker poker boom, they weren't, you know, they were going to have antes in a new game, and it just sort of stuck that way. But people play loose enough where it's not just a dead game without antes. You know, but if you have
interesting.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of people playing 15% of their hands at a 9-handed table, it is going to be a dead game.
That's pretty interesting. We've seen some like some pot limit games with some antes, some per player antes per hand here, like popping up recently around the country. I think that's kind of a new interesting concept.
Pot limit with antes?
Yeah, pot limit Omaha games with antes.
Yeah, I mean, usually they're not played with antes, pot limit games. And that's because there's a cap on the betting, right? Preflop. That was one of the things, too, that an old school guy that I used to play with before he passed away, Bobby Hoff, like a live legend, used to say that, you know, if we're going to play this game without antes, then no limit should be pot limit before the flop and no limit after the flop. Because when you can start, and you look at that as a function of no limit hold'em tournaments, of course, no limit hold'em tournaments have antes, but if you can just shove all in, and there's no cap on the betting, you know, pre-flop, it can, you know, it can shut, you know, everybody out. Whereas in pot limit, somebody can only raise the pot pre-flop, right? Not like 4x, 5x, something like that. So that's why there isn't antes in pot limit games usually. Nick from Yuma in the YouTube chat said, would it specifically be a big blind ante or everyone antes in the game? Well, the big blind ante came about in tournaments just to quicken the game up. I don't think that anyone had actually thought about that. And we're talking way back in the day when no limit used to be played always with antes in these games, pre-Boker boom. But yeah, you could play with a big blind ante. I mean, the only issue would be, how do you address people, you know, walking away from the table? Do they have to post a blind? I mean, we've played that heavy ante game on live at the bike with a big blind ante, and you just have to post. Basically, you put a second ante in there if you miss your big blind. But I'm all for, like, you know, doing that, the big blind ante, especially in tournaments. I think it's great. So, I mean, I've seen this guy Scott before on some of the shows. I mean, the Queen Jack of Diamonds, I'm 100% going to open that hand. He chooses to limp. Then you got Greg with kings and, or excuse me, Josh with kings. Obviously, he's going to raise. And now Greg here, who's kind of on the short stack. Now, you know, the crazy thing is that if those stacks are accurate here and he only has 76 behind, he definitely shouldn't call. He's not deep enough. It really should be a raise or a fold. And, you know, maybe if he had like 150, maybe you jam. But I think that when people play ultra short, especially in cash games, they're not playing it right. It looks like kings have slow played the flop here. So Josh chooses to check top set. And now, you know, the turn comes a backdoor diamond, actually gives Scott a flush draw. And he's going to go into check call mode here. And now he is going to river a queen, which may get Josh here some money that he would not have gotten. He's going to bet, looks like 60. And he does get the call. And again, you know, I don't know if Scott's going to go back and watch this, but what I would say about that hand is that, first of all, I'm going to open queen jack of diamonds, but somehow if I get there to the turn, you know, that's a hand that, you know, I'm mostly going to come out and bet. When the preflop raiser checks back king 5-3 in a multi-way pot, and now I pick up a flush draw on a turn, it doesn't really change top pair. You have got the green light to bet. Now, obviously, he would have gotten burned, right? Because the guy had top set. But how often is he going to have like 10s, 9s there versus, say, top set? One of the things that when you do play a pot limit tournament, like I don't know if you've ever played like a pot limit Omaha tournament live or anything like that, you can play very, very few hands because there is no ante. You know, one of my favorite events at the World Series is the Omaha 8 mixed event, which is a 1500. And 1/3 of that is limit, and the other 2/3 are pot limit. And the pot limit rounds actually move much slower than where they would be in a regular 1500 pot limit, because there's a pot limit 08 tournament too. And in that tournament, the pot limit rounds are half as what they are in the regular 1500. So you can just play like no hands. And sometimes tournaments are all about survival. Looks like Greg's going to get it in here now on the short stack. So looks like just a flip here. Pocket eights and king queen. No, pocket eights folds. Wow. Got your home ball says you can knit it up in PLO tourneys. 10 big blinds is a lot. Yeah, absolutely. He called in king queen 1. Nick said, okay. Didn't see the overhead shot there.
Yeah, it looks like we got Scott raising up here with some mystery cards. On the gun +2 gets called by the Jack 8 offsuit. That's some more of that limp calling we were talking about, Bart.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wide. Jack 8 offsuit as a limp call. Well, I mean, he did flop a gut shot. He's going to come out and bet it now on the turn. And Scott just folds. I mean, from what I've seen from Scott, he plays kind of on the passive side.
Scott's a best bet reg, best bet legend. Puts in a lot of hours here. Him and his wife Deb. They're great.
You know, I don't want to ruin your parade down there, Dustin, but you know, I did this 5-5 challenge last year. I only ended up getting to play maybe like 300 hours, but I traveled a lot last year, and it was a function of my wife and I were trying to figure out where we were going to live.
Okay.
So I went to a bunch of different cities, you know, Vegas, Sacramento, Portland, Oregon, Austin, Kansas City. Of course, I came down to see you guys in Jacksonville, and people say, hey, where were the best 5-5 games that you played, or the $5 blind games in the country? And I always said the worst ones were in Vegas and the best ones were in Jacksonville.
It's so true. I tell people all the time we have the best mid-stakes games in the country. There's so many people that come here to visit their friend that's a full-time player, and they end up moving here 2 months later just to play full-time.
Well, some of those guys that play the high-stakes game are all from Ohio, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the same story that we're talking about. They came down. George, I mean, you know George. He said he
Right.
came down and played one day in Jacksonville before he packed up and moved his whole life here. Oh, yeah, that's right. That whole game was a bunch of the Ohio guys, the game that you played in. And that goes for our 5-5 pot limit Omaha games, too. I think that's some of the best mid-small stakes pot limit Omaha games you can find in the country. It's a 300 min with no max, so, I mean, you can get all kinds of different games. You can get a huge game. You can get, you know, a little bit of a smaller game, but it's always good.
So once again, I mean, we see, you know, a limp here, and Jeremy's going to raise it up here to 35. You know, Chad on the button here with eights. Again, usually you don't see people all this shallow, but it almost reverts back to tournaments. I mean, you could just shove that hand. You can pick up 40 or 50 bucks. He decides to flat here, which is more than 10% of his stack. Ace 10 flops top two. No one really has a piece of it, so everyone's going to get out of the way. You know, one of the things that's, I don't know how new a feature it is, but a lot of people don't realize is that these cameras are automated, right?
So, yeah, the cameras are on an automated switching system. They switch based on, they follow the action across the table. And then when there's no action, like something like this, when the dealer's dealing, they just rotate between, you know, you can have 10 cameras that they would rotate between. It's all features in the GFX software that we use.
I'm actually getting a text on the side from William Hung. People know the She Bangs on American Idol from like 10, 15 years ago. He's telling me he's going to play on the show on the 26th and on the 29th here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think we have him on the list for 2 games, 2 upcoming games here in the future. He's going to be here next Wednesday and I think next Saturday, playing 2-5 deep and then 2-2 deep a couple days later.
So Josh here raised it with red tens, and Joe Keaton called here with just ace jack suited. I mean, that's a hand again that very well you're going to be 3-betting a lot in this configuration. He chose just to flat, and he's flopped the best of it here. And this is a spot here, Dustin, where if seat 5 Joe Keaton here calls, again, it's a really small sizing. If the river bricks out on diamonds, he's got to take this for value on the river. And I see it so often. Like, if we see a blank river, is this going to go check, check? This is where the money is made in Hold'em. All right, so let's see what tens does here. I mean, you got to value bet this. So this is Hand-picked, biggest brick in the world. Okay, he's going to go for value. But I'll see like king jack, ace jack just check down so much, and he gets snap called. So there's a good $80 there. So Dustin, is this guy's name Joaquin or Joaquin? Do we know?
Hey, yeah, I think we're gonna go Joaquin on that.
Oh, it is Joaquin. That's what I said the first time.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that would pronounce that Joaquin.
No. Yeah, no. Who's okay? Like Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it looks like Russ here made it a quarter. The green chips are 25s. The reds are 5s. Seems to be pretty consistent around the country with that. Makes it 25 here with the ace-10 suited. And we got another jack-8 limp call from up front. And Russ has flopped the best of it here. He's going to make the same bet that he raised to pre-flop. And I think that you're definitely, or you should be doing more liberal value betting on earlier streets against wide pre-flop ranges. You know, sometimes you take like a weaker top pair for a check on certain boards, but you know, if we see people playing 40, 50% of their hands, you're just missing out on a lot of value by not betting top pair.
So I did step out and get an update. It's Joaquin. I had it wrong.
Okay.
That was a misclick on my part. It is pronounced Joaquin.
I did say that though.
Yeah, for sure.
In the beginning.
It was a misclick here on Best Bet Live. So we got clarification on that. The boss man in the chat says she bang. That's right. Next Wednesday, another 2-5 no limit deep stack cash game featuring William Hung. What do you think about this one, Bart? Coming out under the gun +1 with the 8-6 of hearts one time.
Well, it's definitely a little bit on the wider side, and we got two premiums that people show up here. Josh with jacks, and Greg's on the short stack. He's just gonna get it in here for sure, and that's gonna let Russ, I think, easily fold. It would be at this stack depth. You know, if Russ was just heads up in position, he very well might call 1400 deep with the 8-6 of hearts, but just gonna get out of the way here.
You know, a lot of times when I do these streams, I say the exact same thing. I always go, oh, he's definitely going to fold here. And then they always surprise me. They always do the opposite. Look at the flop he would have had.
Yeah, he would have had a flush draw and a gut shot, and then he would have turned the nuts with hearts with the 8-6 of hearts.
Free roll on the turn.
Yeah, so jacks are going to win it, and Russ might have won a big pot there. The thing is that he can't call with someone else calling, you know, obviously getting it in between, but the other thing too is that usually people are going to play a little more cautiously when there's three people in the main pot. So he's not really going to maximize on that hand when somebody's all in between. And what I mean by that is jacks is probably going to be able to get away from it more often than not, because what is Russ doing? He would be like basically bluffing into a dry side pot. So, you know, that's another one of those subtle unlucky spots for Russ in the sense that it's a little bit unlucky that the guy in the big blind ended up with ace-king, where he might have even stacked the guy with jacks. But then again, he got lucky that he flopped, you know, a big draw and made the nuts where jacks was still an overpair to the board. So, you know, there's so many little sort of butterfly effect types of things that can go on in poker.
Yeah, it's tough to call with 8-6 when you still got a player behind you left to act. Bossman says a juicy. Yeah, that was a juicy one. Looks like getting caught up on the graphics here before we put out the flop. There we go. Back in
I'll get a
action. Look
set
at this.
here. Set against a flush draw.
Set
Case
up,
4.
man.
Yeah, case 4 on the flop here. And Joaquin, you know, 2 overcards. Well, 1 overcard of flush draw. He's got some backdoors too. He could actually turn, you know, some other equity here if a, you know, any card between a 6 and a jack comes. Actually, a 5 and a jack. He's got a lot of cards to turn equity. And looks like Jeremy went for the check raise and got it. So he got the bet. I believe it was from Joaquin. Joaquin bet really, yeah, really small, $10. And I assume that Joaquin is going to continue on here. Well, that's not one of the cards where he could have picked up the extra equity. He almost had half the deck.
Still a hand like 5-6 would be double gutted here on the flop. They could have gotten there with the deuce coming in. I don't think he comes in for the raise there, but still.
Yeah, 5-6 is open-ended on the flop. I don't know how often a guy's going to lead out here with 5-6 on this board for $10. It's usually more likely to be a flush draw. So, I mean, I would certainly bet my set on the turn, and Joaquin just gets rid of it.
That's it. Button moves. Jordan, can you bring up the wins and losses so we can see so far? How many hands in are we? 19 hands in so far. A 2-5 no limit deep stack cash game. Josh still way out in front. That's not bad after 20 hands. Chad stuck 170. That's not too bad. What's that? 25 bigs? 30 bigs? Thanks to all you guys tuning in on YouTube. Thanks to Bart Hansen for tuning in, hanging out with us.
Yeah, hopefully I can do this again. I mean, if you guys got this set up, it's obviously pretty easy for me to do. And, you know, I've used a fair amount of Jacksonville footage for, you know, training stuff, YouTube stuff. So I'm always, you know, happy to help out.
Yeah, that's super cool. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you back here on the stream table soon. We have an interesting question in the Facebook chat from Nathan Campbell. Bart, he says, what makes the Vegas 5-5 worse versus jacks?
There's just a bunch of nits in Vegas. I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just everybody and anybody, you know, goes there on a small roll to try to be a professional poker player in their early 20s and, you know, lives with 3 other guys for $200 a month in rent. And it just sort of, it just kind of encourages kind of that nit lifestyle, nit play. They're just really, really tight there. Not a great flop here for kings. Does turn the nut flush draw though in a gut shot. I mean, I was really only there for 3 or 4 months, and maybe I played less than 10 sessions, but I was not impressed overall with the 2-5 games.
That's the general consensus I've heard as well concerning Vegas.
And I have some friends too that travel for other work and play in a lot of different rooms around the country just because they're traveling for other work, and they say the same things.
Franco getting after it with the nut flush draw here, getting called by the open ender.
Yeah, the Jack 7 open ender, so he gets a little bit of value. And you know, on the surface, you look at this and like, well, you'd never value bet kings here. But when you look at the flop going check, check, and then you bet the turn and a guy calls you, sometimes you might actually get called by a queen. Now he's checked and maybe he's going to try to induce a bluff here from, you know, the jack, which is open-ended.
I think I think there's a lot of hands that he could call you with there on the turn after you. I like this play out of Franco.
So he induces the bluff here, and he actually maximizes where maybe if you could come out and bet for value, the guy would have folded. I mean, I think that one's close, specifically with Franco's hand because he has the king of hearts. There's less flush draws that the guy could have that he could bluff with. Most of the jack types of hands that the guy in seat 4 would have, which are open-ended, are paired up and are going to check back at the end. So, you know, I'm trying not to be results-oriented. I probably would have bet the river, and I think overall as an expectation might actually, in this particular case, actually might have shown a higher expectation if you run that hand a million times by betting as opposed to check calling. So that's another kind of subtle one where you look really deep and, hey, maybe we were a little bit lucky that combination of things happened where the guy ended up having an unpaired jack and bluffed the river when we had kings with the king of hearts, you know, which blocks his flush draws.
Seeing a lot of this 6-4 suited hand keeps popping up. That's the hand of the night, 6-4 suited. They love it.
Well, Joaquin has got the best hand here with eights. Kind of a large bet into 2 or 3 people. There's a front door flush draw there, and it looks like he might get called by worse here. Oh, it's king 3-4. Oh, okay. We got a little graphics lag that sometimes comes up. So it's actually king 3-4. And that 9 of spades, because I'm familiar with the software, is probably one of the burn cards that gets picked up. So he bets on king 3-4. We didn't see what the turn card is because we don't see the overhead. Okay. So king 3-4, 5 king. Front door diamonds came in and 8's going to win it.
Yeah, that does happen sometimes. If the dealer's not extra careful, they can get that burn card too close to that reader, and then it picks it up, and, you know, the system thinks that it's the turn card, but it's actually, it's not. It's a dead card. It's in the burn.
Yeah, and sometimes there's issues sometimes if the dealer pitches like you guys have the markings done pretty well here on this table with the squares, but if the dealer pitches the cards to the 2 and the 8 seat, they can sometimes get pitched over the 1 and the 9, and then the 1 and the 9 get picked up as one of the cards.
Sure, I've seen that happen also.
So limped pot here. One of the flagship concepts of Crush Live Poker. You know, how do you attack limp pots? And, you know, you look at the board on 9-3 deuce, it's kind of dynamic. 9-3 deuce rainbow actually even being a little bit better, where if you have any kind of draw, you know, a lot of times you can attack a better because they're not going to hold on in big pots with just a 9, and usually an overcard's going to come.
I get the feeling Chad might have just got lucky on Greg there with the mystery hand. Chad getting there on the river, making 2 pair.
Well, Chad got raised by Greg,
Oh, no.
so you wouldn't think that ace deuce is good here.
I see. I can see a black ace in Greg's hand, and it looks like he's going to get pushed the pot.
Right. Yeah, there you go, ace 3. So, I mean, that's one of the things I try to do. Like, when I black out the hands, obviously we couldn't see Greg's hand, right? So
Sure.
Chad bet the river with ace deuce on a 3 heart board, and then he got raised by Greg. And it doesn't surprise me that Greg doesn't have the best hand. Now he got min raised, or excuse me, that Chad didn't have the best hand when he gets raised there at the end with 4-5 being out there, a flush being out there, stuff like that. So somebody in the YouTube chat said, this comes from Brandon O. How much should a for-profit player tip the dealers when winning different sized pots throughout the session? I mean, that's a tough question to answer. You know what I mean?
That's a loaded one, right, Bart?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a loaded question. I mean, I've always tried to tip $1, usually for pots that when I was playing 5-10 regularly that got kind of past the flop, and then as the pots got bigger and bigger, you tip a couple extra bucks, but. Depending on the rake and the drop structure in different areas, yeah, if you're a for-profit player, you can't just sort of mindlessly tip large amounts if you're going to be a for-profit player. I mean, it's just the nature of you got to beat the drop, you got to beat the rake. One of the things that you'll see in higher stakes games, in time collection games, is that the players will basically come to an agreement, before the game starts, or just a regular thing where part of the time that they pay is also a tip to the dealer. That's how they've done it a lot of times on stream games, which are time games. So you'll see these high stakes games, people like, these guys aren't tipping anything. Well, when they give time, when they pay their time, they're giving extra for gratuity for the dealer every half hour.
Sure, that's the way we run our bigger time break structure games here in Best Bet Jacksonville. Our 5-10 and above, we run that structure here on the live stream.
And do they tip individually, or do they give time to the dealer for each down?
Well, they give the dealer time for each down, and then it's kind of player specific. Some of them tip $1 or maybe $2 for big pots additionally, in addition to what they take with the drop. But
but there is gratuity. But there is gratuity worked into what they pay.
Correct.
As well. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So Ken here looks like he's going to raise it up to 30 with pocket jacks, and got a couple pocket pairs in here. So jacks, 3s, and 7s. No sets. It's a weird thing, Dustin, because one of the things that tournaments have started to do, as you can see that Ken is going to c-bet jacks here, and he's going to take it down. One of the things that tournaments have started to do over the last 5-10 years is you pay the gratuity ahead of time, right? So, with the tournament fee, specifically at the World Series, you're also paying gratuity as well. That's worked in. So when you get to a situation where, you're losing tournaments, you've already paid gratuity, and then you have a big score, the question is, are you supposed to tip on top of the big score?
Oh, right.
And from a professional standpoint, I've already paid gratuity when I've been losing. You know what I mean? So, it doesn't bother me that much that the World Series asks, do you want to leave additional gratuity? It kind of bothers me that they don't really make it all that clear, maybe to somebody that's not paying attention closely, that gratuity has already been taken for all the tournaments ahead of time.
Right. I never thought of it like that. It's like walking into a restaurant and ordering food and tipping and leaving without eating.
Well, it's walking into a restaurant where gratuity is already included in the bill and them not telling you and expecting you to tip is what it's like.
Sure.
Raise it up here by Josh with 7-6 of diamonds from under the gun. Looks like we get a, wow, queen 8 off. Very wide from +1, makes the call.
How do you feel about raising these suited connectors under the gun?
I mean, again, you know, in a 9-handed game, if people are playing reasonable ranges, it's probably a little bit on the lighter side. I don't know how much of an expectation, you know, playing 9-handed 7-6 of diamonds is going to show from up front. I mean, obviously you can just fold it. But as you get later and later, yeah, it's definitely a profitable open. Sometimes a 3-bet.
Do you think it's some players like doing it because the hand almost plays itself? It's really easy to play post flop. You know, like on that board, obviously it's really easy to just check out, which obviously is a loser. But I think sometimes we see players do it just because it's easy. It's easy for them to do. They can open it, and then if they flop some equity, they can continue. If not, they can just check and be done with the hand.
Well, if they're properly structuring their continuation bets and their sort of double barrels and things like that, but you're always going to be at disadvantage, you know, from out of position. You're supposed to play stronger hands from out of position. And, you know, that's not just a function of having to act first on subsequent streets. It's just everybody can have anything, right? Like you're basically raising into uncapped ranges. The reason why you can raise so wide on the button is because everybody's folded. There's only 2 people left to act. But when you're raising 9-handed in first position, you've got 8 hands to get through.
Right. We got another limper going on here. 4 ways to the flop. Look at Franco just flopping it out the gate. Flopping 2 pair of 10s and 7s with a jack. He's got a player
looks like
betting
he's
into him.
Well, he's in the small blind, so I think he looks like he's going to be setting up a check raise here, I would imagine. Yep. And Greg has kind of a weird gut shot with a backdoor diamond draw, so he could catch a 9 here.
Franco keeping the pot small here. Bets 35. Think maybe he's trying to induce Greg to just rip it here. Leads up for 35 into 80.
Well, I think he's trying to get value from a jack. I mean, Greg's only got $102 left, right? So maybe he's trying to set up stacks, but I would tend to go on a little bit on the larger side here, you know, with bottom 2.
Right, I think that board is a little more coordinated than it looks. There's a lot of hands that he could call with. Call a smaller bet. Greg decides to let it go. Franco takes it down.
I mean, part of the battle, too, with tipping, especially if you're playing in a flat drop game, which is where I come from in California, where the entire drop is taken after the flop. It doesn't matter how big the pot is that if you win a small pot, you know, 30-40% of the entire pot might be going down to the drop. If you start tipping on top of that, you know, there was a hand I was playing at the bike a couple months ago where, you know, it's 5-5. Somebody limped in and I checked the small blind and the big blind checked. And I ended up getting checked through and I won with bottom pair. And, you know, $7 out of the $15 were taken for the drop. So you start tipping on top of that, you can see it becomes a very, very big challenge for a for-profit player to tip a lot.
That's an enormous drop just for a flat drop every hand. I kind of see why you moved out of California.
Well, it wasn't just that.
What do they
So
do in
yeah, it
Austin?
looks.
They do something weird in Austin, like a per hour type deal. Is that the way? I
Yeah,
know
they
it's like a
yeah
structured
there's a
card club type deal.
yeah there's a membership fee, and then it's a time, like $10 an hour is pretty standard, and usually they'll give you discounts actually if you play in longer sessions.
Oh, cool. Like frequent flyer miles.
Yep. Something's going on here with the cards. I don't know if this board is correct. Both cards aren't registering. Oh, the board is correct. It's King 9-4, but we don't see either cards. And again, being familiar with the graphics system, it's usually when a card isn't really registering, but you know, we can play along. It's a 3-bet pot, right? The guy c-bet the flop. Joaquin called and he checked back basically a blank turn. So you wouldn't expect Jeremy really to have a king here. I mean, that 5 is really one of the biggest bricks in the world. So it's like, what does he have here? And now, you know, what does Joaquin have? Joaquin opened, he defended to a 3-bet. Okay, this is interesting here. And now Jeremy is going to bet. And is this a queen? Well, it's a little bit, he's going to bet 125. You wonder if Jeremy might have backed into ace-queen here. Oh, he backed into queen-queen. Okay, he backed into queen-queen. We don't know what Joaquin has, but obviously a very easy value bet backing into queen-queen. But, you know, a case could be made that you actually might even value bet a king, a bet like ace-queen there after checking back the turn.
Just judging by Joaquin's smirk, it kind of looked like Jeremy might have gotten there on the river. He kind of had that look on his face like, oh, you had a big hand, but I had you until the river. For you guys that are going to be around tomorrow, we're running our 2020 promotion. We're giving away $2,020 every hour from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Midnight. 2 p.m. to midnight tomorrow. $2,020 every hour, both locations. 2/20/2020. Looks like Josh with the button straddle here, 10-6 offsuit. Both him and Joaquin getting a piece of it. Wow, big turn card for Josh here.
Well, I mean, he's turned bottom 2 pair here, but I mean, it's a 3rd diamond. There's a couple straights out there. I mean, I don't think you're going to do anything but just call.
Yeah, it can't be your favorite board there when you've got bottom 2.
Greg's got a mystery hand here, but he's checked the flop and the turn. Might be one of these spots again where he's got, you know, a queen, and he's trying to figure out whether he's going to go for a straight draw. I think that he probably would have called by now if he had like the jack of diamonds or the ace of diamonds, but he gets out of the way.
He's also getting pretty short there. It looked like he only had about 85 behind.
Ooh, and the 10-6 gets counterfeit.
Wow.
And Joaquin now checks. This is actually really interesting. I actually like this check. You know, I was talking about how that guy got lucky when I thought the guy got lucky when he checked the hand over to the jack 7 when the guy had kings with the king of hearts. Joaquin there had weak trips and all the draws basically bricked out on the turn. I actually really, that's one of the few instances where I like to check call at the mid stakes of sort of mid to small stakes of live no limit. And the reason why is because when you check what would be trips, meaning that like when that top card pairs and you check, that gives the green light to a lot of people to bluff where they wouldn't normally bluff because everybody else would just bet their trips from up front. So you've got king 5, you sort of bet out with a weak top pair and then it turns into trips. When you check, if someone was in there with a queen or missed diamonds, they're going to bet a lot because they're not going to think you have a king because you checked from up front. So It didn't end up working for him because the guy got counterfeit with the 10-6, but that was actually one of the rare cases where I actually like to check to induce a bluff is actually sometimes when I make weak trips like in a limp pot or something like that with a draw heavy board that breaks out. Looks like Chad's trying to play the trap game here with kings from trying to get the limp re-raise in, and it looks like he is going to get the limp re-raise in. And I don't know why Josh is raising here. Well, Josh just got 10-6 back-to-back hands. I don't know if possibly Dustin, he could be on a little bit of mini tilt because he got counterfeit. I've seen this before, just like, oh, a guy loses a $60 pot and then they're sort of steaming inside and, okay, I'm going to raise with 10-6 off and he's going to get limp re-raised here.
He said it hit last time. It's gotta be good twice in a row, right? We see this move a lot on the stream too. The guys try to limp under the gun with the big hands and they spring the
Yeah, that's again, you know, that's one of these things where, you know, it's kind of an old school play. I'm not really a big fan of it, although he's going to get the guy with king 7 of diamonds to commit. And we're going to see one of the best case scenarios that you can possibly be in pre-flop and hold them 91-9 kings against king 7 of diamonds. But yeah, I just think that you lose a lot of value by limp re-raising big hands. I'm not a huge fan of the play.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's, oh, wow.
Oh, king 7 of diamonds might pull this one out, 91-9. Let's see. Oh, the case king. Wow. Oh.
What a sweat.
Yeah. I think that even though it's very rare, I think the worst case matchup you can be in hold'em is I think kings or queens against king deuce off or queen deuce off. I think it's something like 94-6. But that one was pretty bad, 91-9, but the guy almost pulled it out.
I think all the money goes in on the turn there anyway. Once even if the hand plays straightforward, when Greg makes a pair and a flush draw, I think the money goes in either way.
A couple of things in the YouTube chat. Brandon O says, how do I get better at remembering my card suits, let alone the board after it's cleared when trying to replay hands in my head? I honestly feel like it's a huge leak. I spend a lot of time working on my game, but I can never remember the action after the hand's over. That's why I take a lot of notes at the table. And I'm talking about notes, meaning like I will put in my note app on the iPhone the hands. You know, obviously I'm doing it from content to make podcasts, but, you know, the way my mind works is that I wouldn't really remember specific hands if I hadn't had them written down. And I don't have to write down the exact action, but just having the hands to remember and having a little bit of a review sort of sparks my memory. But hand recall is a very, very important part of becoming a good poker player, because if you don't have good hand recall, then you're really not gaining any experience from playing, right? Because you're not learning from your past experiences. You don't remember them. Russ here with a mystery hand here on ace-king, or on ace-3-4 king with front door hearts. He's going to bet out here on the turn.
There's nothing worse than when somebody tries to tell you a bad beat story and they can't get any of the details right.
Well, that's very common, because the whole idea of a bad beat story is, you know, they're sort of masked by emotion, and they're trying to almost they're trying to look for some sort of, like, you know, camaraderie. Like the details are not important in a bad beat story for the person telling it. It's all about, like, look at the bad beat that I got. So that's very common. And I have a lot of experience, you know, seeing just the general public's hands when people submit to my call-in show. And it's a very common thing that I'll see when people will submit cooler type hands or bad beat stories.
So one thing I've seen lately is some of the bankroll trackers and stuff in the phones now have, like, some of the apps have notes sections where you can select your opponent's hands, select your hands, and it just helps you keep track of what actually happened. And then you put it in right away when it's fresh in your memory, and then you can go back and study it later.
Yeah, I've never used any of those. I mean, like, I always had issues with that program Share My Pair. Like, a lot, I don't know, I can't speak for those functions and those apps, but whenever I have like whenever I've looked at and seen some sort of like live notes app or something like that, they're a little bit heavy. And what I mean by that is the process of like entering the information is extremely clunky to me. That's why I just use the note on my iPhone. I can just write what I want to write. And I don't have to deal with like pressing buttons and, you know what I mean? Like I'm not dealt with, I don't have to deal with the functionality of you know, the share my pair, the replayer is fine, but getting the hands in is just such a pain in the ass. You just don't use the program. I mean, it's sort of what I found. There was another question. People were talking about gambling taxation. I did a gambling taxation video for YouTube this week on Crush Live Poker. So, you know, I'm not a tax professional and I'm not a CPA, but I've worked pretty closely with my accountant over the last 15 years, and people look, you know, for advice to me. So I know quite a lot about gambling taxation. So I wanted to share some of my my knowledge. So if you have any interest in that, you can check it out. I think it came out this week on the Crush Live Poker YouTube channel. So it looks like Russ here raising in the cutoff over the top of a limp with the 6-3 of clubs. So he's getting wide. Flops a flush draw. Wow, that's a very, very light call there from Scott with fours.
Scott's just a non-believer on this flop, huh?
I mean, I think that what Rush was probably thinking was that I can get away with such a small bet that I'm going to fold out that limping range that I think that this guy has, which is basically like a bunch of pairs. So once Scott sort of calls the flop, now here maybe Russ thinks, well, could he have like king, queen, king 10? Again, this is a function of we can see the cards. If he has an ace, he's never folding, which is what a full house is. You know, does he have some of those gut shots? But that was a pretty optimistic call there by Scott on the flop.
I think Russ is a little surprised to see him turn over 2 4s.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks like picking up a new player here in the 4 seat.
So, Dustin, do you guys have a regular schedule for, you know, I see that there's 100 people watching on the YouTube, and I tried to promote out a little bit as best I could. Do you guys have a regular schedule of games that you do? Sort of like schedule, hey, we do like 2-2, we do 2-5 on Wednesdays, stuff like that going on, or is it kind of all over the place?
So the games are kind of randomly scheduled throughout the months. The days are set. We stream every Wednesday and Saturday, and then if we have like a big game that somebody else builds the list, we might stream like a 5, 10, 25 game on a Friday or something like that.
Okay,
as far as the schedule for the stake of the game, it's kind of all over the place. If you guys are watching on Twitch, you can just scroll right down and see the full schedule for the month. And then obviously, as always, if you guys have any questions about any of the upcoming games, you can drop them in the chat, and we'll get back to you. But yeah, we try to mix it up. We try to do an equal amount of 2-5 and 2-2 every month. It's just not day specific. Sometimes it's a 2-2. Sometimes it's a 2-5. Sometimes we might change, you know, that day, based on what we have interest for that day. But we do post all of the stream schedule for the month on our Twitch channel. Like I said, you can just scroll down and see that underneath the feed. And then if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to get in a game, just let us know. We'll get you on a list. Josh taking one down with 10-8 offsuit here on the Ace-King tree queen board. Star Valdez in the Facebook chat says, woohoo, my favorite dealer. Yeah, that's Elise. She does a lot of our live stream tables. Some of our final table tournaments we do here, our cash games.
It's quiet like that. Yeah, that's what it feels like for me too.
Gaynor Hobson in the Facebook chat, 5-10-25, always fun to watch. Yeah, that game gets pretty wild. Bart, you know, you played in it.
Yeah, I was stuck a quick $6,000. I didn't even know the game. I don't know if you guys had planned that game. So I was actually lucky that I had brought some cash with me, but when I arrived in Jacksonville, right, you guys were like, do you want to play? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But, you know, I had to keep, you know, an amount of money. I wanted to play the tournament and obviously rebuy once too, right? So I was a little bit in that session underrolled for that game just because I only had like 15 grand on me from LA.
Yeah, that was a big game. That game got out of control pretty quick. I think I commentated that game. We watched it. Yeah, that game goes pretty often. It goes probably once a week here at Best Bet Jacksonville. And yes, George does always buy in that deep and play that exact same way. I think we're actually streaming that game this weekend. 5-10-25 no limit. I think we're streaming that on Saturday. Yeah, 5-10-25 no limit hold'em. 1,000 min, no max cash this Saturday. That'll be a fun stream. E. McKenzie in the Twitch chat says George needs minimum 2,000 big blinds. Yeah, basically. That's basically how those games go. All right, looks like we're going 4 ways to the flop here. Top for new guy Beck. I guess that's how you say that.
So, I mean, one of the things, too, is that, you know, if you guys are on YouTube or watching for the first time this Jacksonville stream, you can subscribe, right, to the YouTube channel. And you can turn notifications on, and you'll get, you know, if you like watching live stream poker, you'll get a notification of when, you know, Best Bet comes on. Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Wednesdays, Saturdays, and then when we do some of our big guaranteed events, like we try to do a big guaranteed event tournament every month, like 100K or, you know, something like that, and we'll stream those final tables. And then also we have our WPT Deep Stack series coming up next month, so we'll be streaming a lot during those 2 weeks, the 10 days of that. We'll be streaming a lot of final tables, maybe even some featured tables, funneling down into final tables. That's a lot of fun for all my tournament players out there in the chat. Looks like limped around to Franco here on the button, made it 15 with the 4-5 offsuit. Got called in both spots. Both Josh and Franco get a piece of it. Is this new guy's name Beck? That can't be right.
B-E-K?
B-E-K?
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to go, yeah, maybe it's his initials. Maybe he wanted to go up as his initials.
It looks like Franco's betting here with a 5 for a little bit of protection, gets called by a 10, and this most likely is just going to go check here at the end. This might be a good spot here for Franco to turn his hand into a bluff here. You know, he bets the turn. It doesn't appear like anybody has a king because of the action. So can you bet a 10 off the hand? A lot of players won't turn hands with pairs into bluffs, but I think this is a good spot here for it. And it looks like he's going for it, so give him credit. And a 10 should really fold out here. And like I said, a 10 should fold out. Literally, Josh snap calls at the end.
Josh pre-tipped the dealer. He threw $1 before he showed his hand.
Well, it's Jacksonville poker for you, I guess.
He knew.
It looks like a good play on play. It looks like a good sort of turning a hand into a bluff on paper.
He knew it was good. He threw the dealer $1 before he tabled his hand. That's
That's
fantastic.
pretty crazy.
Oren in the Facebook chat asking Bart, why are you here in Florida? But you're not. You're remote commentating from Austin.
Here. I am remote commentating from Austin. That's right.
What a time to be alive, right?
Yep. Like I said, I did this with a project in Ohio like 5 or 6 years ago. It's not overly complex. It's good that, you know, sometimes there can be complications with. So basically my setup is I'm watching the delayed stream, just like Dustin, just like you guys are. But I'm probably watching it a couple seconds ahead. Like I couldn't watch the actual program feed that goes out to the mass public because then there would be a delay, right, with my audio.
Correct.
But so I'm seeing it a couple of seconds ahead of time, and then you guys are just fitting the audio in. So I got to raise it up here by Ken from +3 with Jack 10 off. Josh Button straddling the 10-5 of hearts. And Joaquin here has flopped top 2 with the ace-9. Josh with bottom pair and a backdoor heart draw is gonna, or excuse me, it's, yeah, Josh gonna bet after check 2. Looks like Joaquin's gonna put in a little check raise here to 60. So he's gonna min raise here with ace-9. And Josh is going to call the min raise. And that's just a function of the pot being so large. Even if you're behind, you probably have equity. If the most common sort of range of that min check raise is a single pair of ace. This is an unconventional line. I mean, I would say, hey, what is Joaquin min check raise flop with and then check turn? It's usually a weak ace. I wouldn't think that he would have a whole lot of ace-9 for top 2 in his range, but actually ends up having that. But going to bet out and he's going to win it and take it down.
Oren again in the Facebook chat says, smart, who wants to be in Florida? I mean, we already mentioned this. We have the best mid-stakes game in the country, and Bart semi-confirmed.
Well, somebody said, why didn't I move to Jacksonville? And yeah. I'm going to keep it diplomatic here. I just, you know, there were different parts of the country that I enjoyed more than other parts. And, you know, I settled on Austin, Northern Florida being an interesting area.
The great thing about the location here in North Florida is you can be just about anywhere in the entire Southeast in like 5 hours. You know, you could be in Miami in 5 hours. You can be in Atlanta in 5 hours. You can be in New Orleans in 8 hours. You know, you could be in Biloxi in 5 hours.
The cost of living, though, I mean, for these guys that are trying to like grind out and they move to Vegas because the cost of living in Jacksonville is way less than it is in Vegas. I mean, it's some of the lowest cost of livings. What can you rent a good 1-bedroom for in Jacksonville? Like $800?
I mean, yeah, you can get a nice place for $1,000, $1,100. You can get a nice 1-bedroom,
like a
within
nice
a couple miles from the card room. You know, like the card room's in a great location. You can get a nice 1-bedroom not far from here for $1,000. Pretty standard.
And you could probably buy a really nice house for what, like 200,000, something like that, around in the area.
Yeah, I mean, 200,000 will get you a nice starter home, a nice 3-2. You know, a couple years old, easy in a decent neighborhood. 200K for sure. Definitely. And there's no state tax.
That is yet another reason why I moved to Texas. But in Texas, they have, as I'm about to learn, as my wife and I are in the process of buying a house, they have pretty high property tax to make up for that, though. They do have good public schools, but looking at paying about 2.5%, which is pretty high property tax.
Wow. I've heard great things about the poker scene in Austin. I heard, like I said, we talked about it earlier. It's brand new, and it looks like we see our first pair of aces there from Ken. And they're popping up everywhere out there, right? Card rooms opening left and right. Anyone can do it. They don't have like a gaming commission or something. They're just
they don't have a gaming.
West.
Yeah, they don't have a gaming commission, but you have to be careful, and you have to go about it in a smart way because places have been shut down, and everybody sort of hopes that there aren't kind of bad actors that come into the scene and ruin it for some of the existing, card rooms that are playing by the existing rules. You know, there's some stories about like there's a room in Houston that's dealing in like a phantom 10th player and pushing part of the pot to that phantom 10th player, and then that's sort of going down a drop box. You know what I mean? Stuff like that where the rake is not allowed. People trying to tread the rules.
No way.
Tread the law, yeah. So, you know, sometimes people get greedy and it can ruin it. But yeah, you know, the local authorities here know about the rooms, and I think that the established card rooms have done their due diligence and their relationship. I don't think it's a high priority. Where you get into situations where some of these rooms are challenged is in the Dallas area, because the Oklahoma tribal casinos feel like they are having some of their business taken away. So they will lobby the state, they'll lobby Austin, you know, or they'll lobby the city of Dallas basically to not allow them. In Austin, we're pretty, and in San Antonio, we're pretty safe when it comes to that, because we're not really going. I mean, Choctaw's 4 hours away. It's not like Dallas where it's much, much closer. And then a little bit in Houston to a lesser extent, going east to the Louisiana casinos too. So, you know, a lot of this stuff is all about money and who gets what, you know.
Right. That's why I'm actually surprised that they don't have a gaming commission. You know, that's just more taxes they can take from the
Well, they don't have a
employees
gaming
and
commission because
stuff.
they don't have casinos. Gambling's not legal. So they don't have a gaming commission because gambling's not legal.
Well, so,
Poker
like,
is a gray area.
We don't have, you know, gambling's not fully legal here in the state of Florida either. We have poker that falls under parimutuels. But, you know, we get inspected by, we have a gaming commission. We have people that come around and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and staying.
Yeah,
inside
but
the
you have parimutuel betting though, right? So something's going to be, I mean, they don't have that in Texas as far as I'm aware. All they have is a lottery. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So there's no one to police the parimutuels because they don't exist. So there's no one to police the poker.
Right.
I get it.
I think that same setup that you guys have is the same setup that they have in Oregon too, with parimutuels and poker. That live stream Portland Meadows, that, well, they don't do a live stream, but the poker guys up at the Meadows. I went up there. That was another area that my wife and I looked at living in. Cool city in Portland.
What was the hold up there?
Why didn't we move there? Or
yeah, what was
I mean, it was just, yeah, no, it was great. It was great. We just liked Austin more. Portland, you talk about different things that you see around the country. So in Texas, you know, there's a day fee. You can obviously buy a membership, and then it's $10 an hour. Portland's really something. How about it's $10 a day, just period. There's no time fee and there's no rake. You're like, how did these places exist?
Right. How do they pay their employees?
Yeah, you know, it's. So got a raise up here by BEK or Beck with pocket eights. And I think Russ just pitched the ace-10 offsuit, so a little bit disciplined there. But Scott going to get in there with 9 deuce off, and Ken in here with ace-7 suited from the small blind. Ooh, look at this, Dustin. Top and bottom versus middle set. So we could see some fireworks here.
Wow. For sure. We're going to see.
We could see some fireworks. Yep. And this is, you know, kind of our first sort of matchup hand. Let's see if Ken's going to play this as a check raise here with top and bottom. Looks like he is. And if I'm sitting there with eights and the small blind check raises me in this spot to 215, and the way this game is sort of played passively, I am squarely putting this guy. I mean, the most likely hand is ace-7 with what we have in our hand with eights. Like, he could have pocket sevens. I think his bet size is a little bit on the larger side for a single paired ace, and Beck's just going to bet 3-bet, which I actually think is fine. And it's an all in. And because there's a lot of action card killers that can come. Some people are like, why not just call? You know, you can get a lot of action card killers, and eight's going to take it down.
Wow.
You know, again, it's sort of an older school thought that I used to heavily stress in my training back in the day, where if somebody's going to get it in with you now, get it in. Don't allow a card to somehow freeze the action I used to call that the aggressive action theorem. I said, when someone raises post flop, they're never going to fold. You know, obviously things have changed, but I actually like the bet 3-bet there with 8s. I think that when somebody's hand is strong enough to make it 215 over the top of an $85 c-bet, they are not folding. And yeah, he just gets it in, and they get it in all on the flop.
Wow, look at Beck. New player to the table, getting the full double up here in the deep stack game.
Nick from Yuma says he could have gotten away from ace-7 with 500 left. I don't think so, because, you know, one of the other advantages of playing that hand really fast like that with 8s is that it's actually deceptive, sort of in a backwards way, where you're like, well, would a guy play a set this fast? You know, I've seen guys play ace-king like that, where they think they have the nuts. I don't think I'm folding there with ace-7. You're going to fold ace-7 after you check raise, and the pre-flop raiser 3-bets you on ace-7-8 at like $900 effective. I mean, that's...
Do you ever see players do? I mean, I'm sure you do, but what do you think about players making moves like that with like a 9-10 of diamonds right there, like an open ender?
Sure, they could do that. They could do that, absolutely. But they're not going to fold that hand either, right? When you bet 3-bet, so.
Wow, look at Beck, newest player to the table, up 200 bigs already. Can't have to go take a walk after that one. Cool down a little bit.
So there's a guy in the YouTube chat, T. Lee, saying, Bart, where are you from originally? I grew up in the Boston area, and I never played poker until I moved to LA, and then I lived in LA from 2003 until pretty much until the beginning of this year. And then I moved to Vegas for like 3 or 4 months. We knew that we probably weren't going to stay there. That was just a transitional thing. And now I'm here in Austin, and probably plan to be here for, if we buy this house, at least 20 years.
Austin's awesome, as if it wasn't a cool enough city as it is, and now they have poker on top. Now they have great poker on top of it, you know. It's really a destination spot already. Throw a poker room in there. It's got to be a recipe for success.
Yeah, the growth in this area is quite astounding. I mean, I live in a city. I guess I don't know if it's a town or a city, but in 1980 there were like 2,000 people in it, and in 1990 there were like 5,000 people, and right now there's maybe 60,000 people in it.
Wow.
So, and that's, you know, there's several towns around this area in the northern suburbs that are like that. So Russ is going to raise it up here with King Jack, and Scott here on the button just flats with 10s. Back here with the King 5 of hearts. I'm not sure if that was a straddle or if he limp called, but Russ is, you know, he's got top pair here. And he should be able to get some value from Beck. I think this is an overly optimistic call here by Scott on the button with a player behind him with 10s with the 10 of diamonds.
We've seen him get sticky with these small pocket pairs, just be a non-believer. I think this is a spot where a lot of small stakes players struggle, is like Beck in this spot. When you get a big stack, like what are you supposed to do with it? Are you supposed to be tightening down the screws and tightening up, or should you be playing a lot more hands and trying to get more chips? You know, I don't know what you're supposed to do with the King 5 of hearts in that spot.
Well, that's interesting here. I mean, I think I'm going to call that a Jacksonville bet there from our friend Russ. And what I mean by that is that like it's King Queen, what was it, King Queen 4 on the flop with 2 diamonds. It was either King Queen 6 or King Queen 4. He bet, he got called in 2 spots, right? And then the turn came a diamond, like King Queen 4, and then turn 6 of diamonds, and he still bet. And because usually you would reflect that with a check when 2 people call you, there's going to be a lot of flush draws. But I think Russ is probably so experienced in this area, he's just like, there's value to be had here.
No fear. Like we talked about earlier, Russ plays a lot. He puts in a lot of volume, especially on the live stream. He's a smart player. I'm sure he goes back and looks over his hands when he plays, you know. A lot of people don't realize that these live stream tables can be used as quite a cool training tool to go back and do a little self-study, see how people view you and your play style, what they're calling you with, what they're raising you with, and look for leaks in your own game. Looks like Franco's going to get a walk here. Button straddle. You don't see that too much in a deep stack game. Getting a walk in the straddle for 10.
Now, do they allow the button straddle like in a regular 2-5 game that's off stream?
So
you guys
the
do an
answer is no.
$800
Regular
cap,
2-5
right?
game, out
Yeah.
the rest of the room, under the gun straddles only. But we let them button straddle here in the live stream game, just like we let them buy in a little bit deeper.
Got it. Because I'm not
And
a
then
huge fan of the button straddle. I think it sort of kills no limit a little bit, kills the game a bit. Because it forces the blinds to act first, right? So they're going to fold out a lot of the hands that they might defend with. I have no problem with the under the gun straddle, obviously, for adding action, but I just think the button straddle is just taking a little bit too much from the game when you do it. It is a huge advantage, I would say, if you're the only one doing it.
I like the button straddle because it prevents the chops. You know, that's one thing we see a lot out in the cash games and the rest of the room is chops. A lot of folds around to the small blind, big blind, chop it up. But once there's some dead money in there, they can't chop. Have to play it out. Or sometimes they just fold and he gets a walk, but it's better than a chop. Joaquin making a top pair here on the 9-4 tray board. Getting called by Beck with 2 overs.
Trip up here
Yeah,
for Joaquin.
trips.
Now, this is what I was talking about before, Dustin, where let's say Joaquin bets again here and he gets called. And then the river's a brick. I actually thought that there was somebody who was in position, but say Joaquin had bet here in a limp pot with top pair, turns trips, bets again, maybe the guy on the button calls, then the river's a brick. That's actually a spot that I like to check with weak trips because it increases your bluffing frequency of your opponent so much because it's so rare that someone's going to check trips there. They sort of get the green light. They're like, this guy can't have a 9, and I can. I'm going to bet.
Sure, like on a super dry board.
Usually on a wet board. Where there are draws that the in-position player is calling with that are going to bluff off at the end.
Oh, right. The draws that miss, that don't get there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think what we just saw right there is more indicative of a Jacksonville bet where it just goes same bet on the flop, same bet on the turn. I don't know if you see that a lot throughout the rest of the country, but we see that a lot here.
Well, yeah,
same
I mean, I do see that, but it's usually Joaquin is doing it sort of with a different set of hands. He's actually doing it with stronger hands. Usually the same bet, the min check, raise check, or the same bet is kind of a in-between medium strength hand, like a weak top pair. We've seen him do it with top 2, check, raise, and then check, and then there are trips. Looks like Chad semi-bluffs the 8-9, takes it down. You guys are allowed to serve, you guys can serve alcohol too, isn't that right? I see somebody drinking a Corona.
Yeah, we have a full service bar. We're open, we're allowed to serve until 2 here.
Nice.
7 nights a week, so we got a full service bar. That's part of the fun.
Absolutely. So a lot of Texas clubs are bring your own. In Austin, they can't sell them. So some clubs will provide it sort of as an incentive if they're doing a promotion, but most of them are just, BYOB.
I think I've heard that before. Actually, is there one room that's near or next door to like a brewery or something? I've heard of players like going next door and getting like growler bottles and coming back into the game.
Well, I played in San Antonio, and where they actually run a lot of Big O games, and next to the SA Card House, there's like a bar, basically in the same complex. So half the table, like right around 1:30, went off and like took a bunch of shots before last call. The last time I was down there.
That's fantastic. What's a running theme here in our room? Up in some of the big games, they just order bottles of wine. They just say screw it.
Yeah, we've done that before too.
Bottle after bottle.
Oh, Russ here. Definitely going to 3-bet. CLP approved here. The Ace-King suited on the button. And this is certainly a hand that Josh should not be defending here from out of position.
Makes a quick fold and Russ takes it down. If you guys are just tuning in, we're playing 2-5 no limit hold'em deep stack cash on a 15-minute delay out of Best Bet Jacksonville, and we are joined by Bart Hansen of Crush Live Poker.
And I am not in Jacksonville. I am in Austin, or I am commentating on this remotely.
That's right.
Which
we're
is
being
pretty
joined
cool.
remotely via the internet by Bart Hansen. Yeah, this new feature, this remote commentary, is something that we've been trying to hone in for the past couple months, and probably just in the past 3 months, we've really got it dialed in. We've had a couple guest commentators. We've had a couple local guys that just didn't want to leave their house. They commentate from their couch.
And my wife just brought me some coffee and some water, and yeah, it's great to get weighted on here, hand and foot, with doing some live commentary.
Don't even have to leave the house.
Yeah.
We had a boss man on here one night remote commentating, and he fell asleep in his chair at his office at his house. Looks like both players with an ace on this board. We're chopping it up. Scott's going to pick up the extra chip. Not sure if Ken's coming back there in the 9 seat or if we've exhausted our list so far for this game.
But your normal 2-5 game, which is usually the normal game that you guys run as that's like the flagship game of Best Bet, right? Is an 800 cap, is that right?
That's an 800 cap. Yeah, that's 200 min, 800 max.
And you guys will have like 5 or 6 tables going to that. Like, I know a lot, right? A lot of the time.
On the weekends, we'll definitely have at least 5, sometimes 6 or 7. During the week, like tonight, I think I could take a look out there, but we probably have 4 going right now. It's about 11 here. So, yeah, we probably have like 4 2-5 games going right now. We run a lot of 2-2 games. More 2-2 than 2-5, honestly. If we have 5 2-5 games, we'll probably have 10 2-2 games. And that's a little bit deeper of a game, too. That game runs with a $300 max.
So it looks like this was a straddle pot and just limped around again and checked around. I think Scott's got the best of it here with ace-4 from the small blind.
Makes the full boat there on the river.
You guys have done PLO High and obviously No Limit. Have you ever done any other games on the stream before? Oh, yeah, you've done 08 before, right? Because I know I've taken some Limit 08 stuff for training purposes.
Yeah, we've done some Limit 08. We've done the 8-16 game. We do that every once in a while, the 8-16 with the $2 chips. We've done 2040, bigger 08 games before. 2040, I think we did 40-80 or something, 30-60. We did a big limit OA game one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a fun one. Are you familiar with Jan Fisher from?
I am. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
Jan Fisher came into town.
Jan and was Linda Johnson here too?
Yeah, Jan and Linda, they came in. They played. I think it might have been a 40-80 or a 30-60 big limit OA game here.
Well, so they are big parts of card player cruises.
Right.
Jan and Linda. So they're. I think a lot of times they're in Florida because a lot of the cruises, you know, whatever they'll leave out of Tampa or
Right. The
Miami.
Fort Lauderdale area. A lot of them leave from Miami.
Mm-hmm. So Joaquin here going to raise it up to 30, King Jack of hearts. Scott definitely has a 3-bettable hand on the button, but just calls. And Josh here, well, the graphics say he jammed with 7-7. It's a big jam. And Scott here on the button with ace, queen of diamonds just as an initial flat. Okay, it's not a jam. It's to 105. I mean, I think that Scott should be back jamming here. I mean, I think he should have 3-bet anyways. But, you know, we see Scott play conservatively. He just calls. Not the best flop here for 2 red 7s, but
Definitely not.
Josh is just basically going to commit himself here with the bet. And it's going to get through.
I'm sure that's something that you probably go over a lot in your Crush Live poker stuff is people just not 3 and 4 betting enough. And that's something that we see a lot of here on the stream, especially when you can do, like we said earlier, play Monday morning quarterback. See a lot of spots where I think players can be putting in squeeze plays and 3 bets and even 4 bets with hands like ace queen suited on the button. We just don't see a lot of it. And when you do, they're at like the absolute top of their range.
Well, I mean, in that case, you know, ace queen, no one had called in between. I mean, the key is the dead money in between. When you have a lot of people playing wide ranges, you're just giving up a lot of value by not 3-betting those hands. You are allowed to flat, you know, on the button quite a bit because sometimes you're actually supposed to have, you know, keep yourself protected and flat some stronger hands as well.
Sure.
So that you're not always weak when you flat. But yeah, I certainly would have 3-bet the ace queen suited there.
So back to new player in the big blind with the mystery cards here. The old same bet trick on the turn.
Pretty optimistic call here by Franco with ace-6, unless he's planning on bluffing here at the end.
Matthew looks like Futer in the Facebook chat asking where in Austin can you have a good game now? Bar, what do you think?
Well, there's a lot of different rooms around in Austin. So, you know, for me, it's just sort of getting accustomed to where the games are running that I want. Again, they don't really play all that big down here. There's also, because all you're doing is basically paying a membership fee and time, you can have your own game. So a lot of the juicier games have gone somewhat private, meaning that they can be controlled lineups because a guy can just be like, I want to have a game, and they'll accommodate it for you. You know, the largest game on a regular basis is 1-3 match the stack, which, like we talked about earlier, you know, plays between a 5-5 and a 5-10, definitely going to play bigger than this game. And that's across several different rooms in the area. They do have some PLO in a card room that's played on a regular basis in the south side of the city. I haven't gone down there because it's pretty far from my house. So Russ raised it up here pre-flop to 40. Check back the flop. We can see, or he checked the flop from under the gun. And we can see that Scott has top pair. And Russ check called the flop, and now Scott is basically moving all in. And I would imagine that Russ probably has a pair between sevens and kings. Like maybe he's got jacks, maybe he's got tens, something like that. You know, from what we've seen, Russ is basically, you know, liberally just betting off top pair, which I think is fine for a game like this. So when he check calls flop, I mean, I do think that that's what he has. We can't see what he has, but, you know, based upon the fact that Scott has king, queen, he's probably likely to have tens or jacks. And he's going to get away from it.
So, Bart, one question that I have for you as far as the TCH stuff, their live streams, they run their live cash games 10-handed, right? Is that correct?
They did in the beginning, but that changed.
Changed
After, yeah, it's just, you know, a 9-handed game is going to be better than a 10-handed game, so.
Sure, that was my my initial reaction when I guess maybe I watched some older streams. I tuned in and I said, "What are they running a 10-handed game?"
Yeah, it's pretty much 9-handed now. And
okay,
the nights
cool.
that the nights that are their regular schedule is Monday and Thursday, so it's opposite to you guys. And you know, I actually changed the time of my call-in show, and I pushed it up earlier so to not conflict. But I anticipate probably commentating on there 2 times a month and playing on there two times a month. I mean, I'm in the area, so it's great for me.
Yeah, very cool. What's the tournament scene like out there? Do they run tournaments or is it all?
They do. They run tournaments and they'll put, you know, like the final tables of their weekend tournaments, which is, I think it's like a $200 buy-in on Sunday nights. So Russ here flops top pair. We can see that Jeremy here with Queen Jack open-ended. It's once again a limp pot. Feels like half the pots here have been limped. And Russ just comes out and bets top pair in the limp pot, which I think is quite good in this style of game with the draws out there to get value. He's obviously got to be wary of a club coming and also, you know, Queen Jack coming in. Can't see what the turn card was. It's a club, so that's going to slow him down a little bit. And that 10's probably going to slow him down here too. Certainly, we could see players calling with second pair. We've seen that. Jeremy is not going to bluff at it with the Queen Jack.
Looks like we saw Russ get rid of the queen jack offsuit there pre. He would have flopped the open ender.
Yeah, I mean, someone raised to 25, and I
Right.
mean, queen jack off is not really a calling hand.
For all of our tournament grinders out there that are tuning in, make sure you head over to the website, check out the full WPT Deep Stack schedule. Came out last week. You see the dates there scrolling along the bottom of the feed right there.
What's the big event in that one? Like, what's the main event?
The main event is the $2,500 buy-in.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big. And what's the bounty? Is that 3,500? The one that I came down for?
No, that's the WPT regional. We do that at the end of the year. The bounty scramble.
Right. And how much is the buy-in for that one? That's 35.
52.50.
Oh, 52.50. Oh, no wonder why I didn't. I was guarded in that cash game. I was like, shit. I only have 15 grand on me. If I need enough for 2 bullets for the tournament.
Right. That one's that's the $2,500 for the bounty though. So, it's 52.50 and then 2,500 for the bounty.
Yeah. So here, Russ going to 3-bet here with the ace-queen suited against ace-king. Oh, and Russ could lose some money here. Josh just flatting heads up with ace-king and ace-king off. I think that's, rather standard. If somebody had cold called the 3-bet, it's almost a mandatory 4-bet, but Russ going to make a continuation bet here with top pair. Little does he know that he is actually behind to ace-king, 65. Josh going to just call. Now, if I do have ace-king and I play it as a flat from out of position, especially in a game like this, I'm actually going to put some money in the pot. And whether that is be through check raising the flop or actually check raising the turn. I mean, this deuce is really one of the cleanest turns you could have with sort of a hidden ace-king. And people might look at that in paper and like, oh, isn't that an overplay? Ace-king is pretty much the nuts here on this board. Unless Russ has pocket tens here. I mean, there's like one combo of suited ace-10. Now, Russ is a good enough player to take this hand for 3 streets on a clean run out. Unfortunately, yeah, that is a clean run out. So I think that Josh is actually going to get a little bit lucky here that he's up against Russ, and Russ is going to bet this hand for 3 streets, where a lot of players are just going to check behind with one pair, quote unquote. And you're not going to get the value. You're not going to actually realize the value from ace-king. But knowing Russ, he's going to value bet here for 3 streets, as he should, the way that this hand is played out. And he's going to get snap called, and his hand's going to be good there like 80% of the time. I mean, that's just a little bit unfortunate that the guy took that line. You flop an ace, and Russ value owns himself at the end. But if you're going to be a good no-limit player, you have to value own yourself some of the time. And what I mean by value own is you have to bet the worst hand for value on the river in position. Because if you're not betting the worst hand for value in position on the river, then you're not betting enough. Because what that basically means is when you're betting for value, you always have the best hand when called, and you're losing way too much. You're leaving way too much value on the table because you're checking back at the end so much.
Looks like Star Valdez in the chat says you guys have a 125K guarantee out there somewhere at the place called the Lodge. Does that sound like a place?
Yeah, there's a lodge in Round Rock, and they just did a big event. So yeah, there's tournaments. Yeah, I mean, there are tournaments here. I mean, they're not going to get like $1 million prize pools, right? But yeah, they'll get some prize pools. One of the other things they do out here, they do quite a few free roll tournaments to get people in the door, which is not something that, I'm accustomed to. That's something that never would happen in Vegas or LA.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I think that's really cool. One thing that we do here that I haven't seen elsewhere is we give away some of our satellite seats in our high hands. In our daily high hand promotion, we'll give away satellite seats. You can literally free roll your way all the way up into these big WPT mains. We'll give away like a satellite seat into a daily single table satellite that'll get you into a mega satellite that'll get you a seat into the main event.
This is a very optimistic overcall here with ace 10. I mean, it went bet by Jeremy, call by Scott, and Beck called with ace 10, and he hits the ace, and he's going to lead out here. And Jeremy here with the open-ended draw. Wow, he just folds. Huh. Just folds, getting almost 4-1, and I mean, it was 85 for 318. Getting 4-1, just folds the Jack 10.
Yeah, should have peeled one more there.
Well, I mean, he's almost getting the immediate price to call.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is that usually when someone leads out on the turn like that, when you look at that action, I mean, that guy Beck is at the absolute bottom part of his range. He's not supposed to have a single paired ace there. He's usually going to have two pair. And the reason why that's good is because all your straight outs are clean, right? It's not like going for a flush where sometimes you might make it and the guy fills up. You can't have the board pair if you make your draw. And then that means that the guy's going to have a big hand to pay you off. So that's like a dream scenario. If the guy turned aces up here and he leads into me and I'm open-ended getting 4-1 with like a 1K behind in my stack, what am I waiting for? Couple of ace nines.
Ace nine, top for both players.
This is most likely going to go check call. And the river is probably going to get checked down. Although if I was back and the river came off a deuce or a 3 or maybe even a 4, I would go for another street. That's probably going to shut everything down. Backdoor spades, the 8's paired, the 6 paired. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when that 6 comes in, it's almost always going to go check there on the river. Everything gets there. So, Bart, I just got confirmation on that WPT event. In March, it's actually a $1,500 buy-in. It's a $300,000 guarantee for a $1,500 buy-in. That's our main event.
That's the deep stacks?
That's the deep stacks next month, yep. Deep stacks main event is a $1,500 buy-in with a $300,000 guarantee. Not $2,500, like I said earlier. A couple of guys talking about it there in the YouTube chat. That was a misclick on my part. 1,500.
Well, Russ going to bet out here with King 10. Gets the call from pocket 7s. Front door hearts come in now.
thought that was the 7.
See if Russ goes for some thin value here. Oh, I love it, Russ. I love it. He's putting this guy on a weaker 10. His king is going to play. And he's going to get called by black 7s? The definition of Jacksonville value right there.
That's
Nicely
it.
played.
There it is. I think it was that check on the turn that got him called on the river. We see that a lot here in the live stream, getting called in the like the spots with the under pairs like that after, you know, a scary turn card, goes check, check, small bet on the river, called by an under pair. See it all the time. Keeps things interesting. Like we said, guys, scroll down a little bit on the Twitch feed. Check out the list for the upcoming games for the month. Let us know if there's anything you guys want to jump in. We got a 2-2 game next week, a 2-5 game next month, and then we get a big 5-10-25 game this Saturday. Oops. Looks like a button straddle out of Franco this hand. Beck thought about getting involved with the King 6 off. Pump fake this. Looks like Russ opened this one up with some mystery cards, and Franco defending the straddle there on the button with the King 10 suited. Flop goes check, check. Gutterball gets there. Any 4 makes a wheel. 2 flush draws out there also. Wow, what a strange river card. Whole thing's going to check through.
Looks like King High's good.
Yeah, looks like Russ shows down the winner. He must have had a better King High. He might have had like a pair of 7s or something, huh?
Well, Russ won it, right?
Russ won with the mystery cards. Oh, Queen, Queen.
Oh, Queen. That doesn't sound right. Well, maybe. I guess if you raise pre-flop. Oh, King High did not win in my bet. I was backwards. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you raise pre-flop, it would be reasonable to check that one down.
Yeah, Russ was a pre-flop raiser in the straddle pot, and then Franco defended there on the button. Ace-high board just got scarier and scarier.
Yep.
So Queen, Queen, good for Russ. Takes that one down. We'll pull up some pre-flop some stats for you guys here in a moment. We'll check out the VPIP and the PFR. That's a question we get a lot here on the stream, Bart, in these lower to mid stakes game. What do you think is like a good PFR these guys should be trying to play?
I mean, well, PFR is going to be a function of your VPIP, right? So you want to have you don't want to be playing like 30 VPIP, 3 VPR. That's, people say, what are your stats? The second number is usually the PFR. You want your PFR to be pretty close to actually your VPIP if you're playing a good, tight, aggressive game. I mean, I think I find in some live loose games that I'll be playing like a style of maybe like 25-17, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, clearly there's some players here that are playing very, very wide. Got a raise here from Russ under the gun of 50. I think this was against a button straddle here, I believe. Yeah, that's why we see the large open.
Yeah, you can see it there on the bottom left. Josh there on the button with the S next to it. He was the straddler this hand.
Yep.
Chad getting it in here with the ace-queen offsuit one time. There's 360 in the middle, and it's 140 for Russ to call with the 2 8s. That's got to be what he's thinking about, right?
Yep. And obviously he's in trouble. I mean, he wants to have this guy have a flush draw or something, you know, obviously worse than that, but getting a good price. He does make the call.
Thanks for tuning in, hanging out with us, guys. Myself, Dustin Shacklock, Bart Hansen from CrushLivePoker.com. You guys haven't checked out his site or his YouTube channel, make sure you head over there. Pick up some, you put out a lot of free content for these guys on your YouTube page, right, Bart? You take these and dissect them up and go over them.
I do, and sometimes I'll release, you know, full-length training videos on YouTube. I put up a montage of me running bad in that game against George the last time I was here in Jacksonville. Bart Hansen runs bad. That was a pretty brutal session.
It was.
I was here with Ace-King, so definitely gonna see a 3-bet here. We've got a couple of limps. There's a straddle, I believe, somewhere, or it was a raise from Jeremy to 10. I think it was a straddle from under the gun, but clear cut 3-bet here against Josh's raise from the cutoff. So limp to 60. Russ going to make it 225. Again, Russ using the correct sizing here. Let me a little bit on the smaller side here. Could go up to like maybe 250, 260, something like that. Wow, and Chad here with king, queen suited. Is he going to limp jam? Nope, going to get rid of it. And actually, there was a call in between. I mean, Russ could be making this easily 300 if it was 4x plus the call in between and the limpers. So this is a 3-bet a little bit on the smaller side here. And Beck here has a mystery hand.
So what do you guys do over at Crush Live Poker Bar? You guys do like monthly memberships, subscription type deal, and then you know, like open forums and stuff like that. And
yeah, we have a monthly membership. We actually have a couple of different levels. There's sort of a podcast only subscription, and then there's podcasts and videos. And yeah, we have free forums. But yeah, I mean, it's been going strong since 2014. And all the videos are basically made off of you know, analyzing live stream hands. And actually, if you're new, you can actually go over to Crush Live Poker and sign up, and you can use the code. Well, you can use my own personal code BHA 2020, BHA 2020, and you get the first 37 days for free. If you want to check it out,
can we drop that in the chat for some of our viewers?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Can you run it by us one more time, and we'll throw it up in the Twitch and the Facebook chat for these guys so they can get over there and check out your free content?
BHA 2020, like the year.
There you go, guys. Use Bart's free code right there, promo code. What do you use it at checkout, Bart? Is that how it works?
Yep, use it at checkout. Exactly.
Cool. There you have it, guys. Head over to Crush Live Poker. Use that code at that promo code at checkout, and pick up a free 37 days. And if you like what you see, get that full subscription one time. Looks like both players missing the flop here. Ace-Jack suited versus Jack-9. Jack-9 with a gutter ball here. What kind of hands do you think he's representing here when he leads out on the river there, Bart, with a bet of 65 into, what was the pot before that, to about 90, 95?
Well, he check called the flop. I mean, he obviously could have an 8. He's pretty polarizing. I mean, the board is not overly draw heavy. When somebody pulls that type of play and I'm in Russ's spot and I have any type of showdown value, even with ace high, a lot of times I'll call if the opponent has shown me that he won't value bet top pair. Like if he's not betting a queen at the end there, then he's actually quite polarized to like an 8+, and you could see that he had a bluff. I mean, bluff that didn't make a ton of sense in ace-jack, but I have been known. Yeah, I have certainly been known. What did Russ have there? I had just looked away for a second, so I missed it.
Russ had ace-jack suited, so he had, he had him dominated there.
That's an interesting one that I want to go over too. So it was ace-jack versus ace-jack?
It was ace-jack versus jack-9. Ace-jack suited versus jack-9 suited.
Ah, I was looking at it the wrong way. So he's bluffing with a gut, basically a gut shot that missed right on queen 8-5. Yeah, I think if I'm in Russ's spot there with ace-jack, I would be very, very curious. And I'm not talking about just because I can see the cards. I'm just saying like, hey, on queen 8-5, turns an 8, river's a 3, and the guy check calls flop and he bets the river. If this guy's, like I said, if he's the type of that's not going to bet a queen, then, he's representing an 8+. And, if I can find enough bluffs that I beat in the form of like 6-7, jack-9, jack-10, things like that,
right?
Then, then I'm going to call. It's unfortunate for Russ that he has a jack in his hand. And the reason is because that cuts out on some of those hands that your opponent can bluff with. Just less combinations of jack-10, jack-9.
Looks like we got more limping going on here until it gets around to Josh with the big slick. Oh, it's a straddle pot. That's what happened. Josh says punish the limpers. I'm a big fan of that play. Especially in these straddle pots when there's some limps and there's already so much dead money out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're just leaving value on the table, right? If you're not going to do that.
He's got a limp called with the 10-8 offsuit there. With the flop, had to get rid of it. Josh keeping the pressure on him. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for sticking around. We know it's a school night. Sometimes these games will go all night. We'll move them out into the rest of the room once we're done streaming, and we'll play until we close. Especially on the nights when we stream the big games, the big 5, 10, 25 games. They'll go till 4 in the morning. That's another question, Bart. What are the hours like in the poker rooms out there? Are they 24? Do they close? What happens?
Some of them close around 3 in the morning, like during the week. And they just kind of like, they don't have a set time. If the games are going, they're not going to close. So they usually stay open on the weekends, pretty much 24/7. But, you know, they might close at 2 or 3 during the week, you know, something like that.
So is it just like if they get slow, they close? But like if there's
Pretty
a game,
much.
they'll go?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
I kind
I
of
mean,
hate
if they
that.
have,
I need very clear parameters about how much gamble I can get in, you know?
oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get, rev up my gamble at 1:30 and then you stay open till 4.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the function of the way that these card rooms work out here, right? Like they're not taking that much money, so because they're not taking a rake, right?
Sure.
So it's like if they only have one table going and you know they're making $90 an hour from that table, that's not really going to be enough to keep the room open, right?
Yeah, when you think about it from that standpoint, I guess it makes a lot more sense to just close them down whenever they get slow. Uh-oh.
Well, Scott
Scott picked a bad time to make a move.
Yep. Gonna get looked up here by queens. Gonna have to get lucky.
You can see Beck there under the gun has one of his 7s. Scott going to be needing to spike that K7. What do you think about the flat here from Franco? Do you think that works out more often than not in that spot?
I mean, I think when the guy jams in for 185, you know, I think it's fine. I probably would flat with all my big hands there, to be perfectly honest with you, just in case somebody else. I'm trying to get somebody else to come in the pot,
Right.
but you know, queens to a lesser extent, just because you know occasionally it needs a little bit more, you know, kind of protection. But you know, if you had aces, sure, you know, why not?
Yeah, Franco just flatting there, making it look like he wants somebody else to jump in there and get a little splashy with a worse hand. But also, it's kind of one of those spots where it invites, it's like the domino effect. We see that a lot here on the live stream. You probably see it a lot dealing with these lower stakes games is once one person calls, then everyone goes, well, all right, screw it, I'll call too.
Yeah, domino effect, right?
The domino effect, man, we see it all the time. Getting it in there for 185 might be a little big to create the domino effect when one person calls, but you never know.
Right. Well, I mean, that's why you don't want to drive people out. Whereas if the guy was all in for 60, yeah, you'd probably want to 3-bet. Like you wouldn't want that domino effect, right? You'd want to isolate.
Sure. Russ coming in for a raise here under the gun, +1 with ace-6 offsuit in the straddle pot. Trying to get after that dead money. I like the thought behind it. He's tried this move a couple times on Franco, though. It hasn't worked. Franco's defending his straddles pretty consistently.
I mean, that's a pretty wide open from +1, but Russ here has flopped the top end of a gut shot. So if a 4 were to come, he would beat an ace, even though he also has an ace. But he ends up basically having 2 overcards and a gut shot. Franco's going to call here with a deuce, backdoor diamonds. There's the ace. So Russ now has a hammerlock on this hand unless he's bluffed out of the hand. And you wonder, you know, at this point, is it possible that Franco could start turning a deuce here into a bluff? I mean, he beats some king highs, but it's awfully difficult for an ace to hold on for 2 streets if it goes bet-bet. He just checks it back. Trying to look for the river here. I don't see it. River's a 9. He's just going to give it up.
Rush shows down the ace-6, scoops the pot. Button moves on to the next one. This one we got a button straddle out of Josh this hand as well. Action's going to start with Beck there in the 4 seat. Looks like we lost a couple players. We're 7-handed now. If you guys are in the area or out in the rest of the room, you want to come play some 2-5 deep, come jump in. Seats open. I say that every stream and it never works. All right, action's going to start here with Beck in the small blind, getting rid of the mystery hand. Joaquin's in there with the queen deuce offsuit. Joaquin's been pretty quiet the past couple orbits. This might just be a on board, I want to play a hand. I know that happens to me sometimes. Joaquin bets out with bottom pair, takes it down. It worked. You guys following us on YouTube, watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Get the notifications when we go live. Also, let us know if there's any games you guys want to jump in. The March schedule for our live stream will be released probably in the next week. Probably be up within the week. The full schedule for all the games next month. Then if you see anything you want to play in, just shoot us an email, drop us a line, and we'll get you in the game. Get you on the list. Franco picking up ace-queen suited in the hijack. Opening for 20. Gets called in 2 spots.
Pretty good flop here. Top pair and a flush draw.
Dream flop.
Yep.
We talked about this a little bit on the last stream. Bart, do you think there's ever a spot, and this kind of looks like one to me, where you just have too much of it? Like you're just checking because you just have too much. He's got everything, you know?
Well, I would do that if I had a lower top pair and a flush draw. So say, for example, you had raised with like ace-4 spades and it came out ace-7-3.
Okay.
I think you can sometimes take that hand and put it into a check range because right now you're not beating all the other aces, right? No one's going to have the nut flush draw. I mean, some people can have flush draws. So if you're getting called only by stronger ranges with aces, you're actually behind right now. I think ace-queen or ace-king of spades is too strong to do that with. Also, too, like in terms of Jacksonville games, just any top pair is probably too strong to check, to be honest with you. But, you know, like say, for example, you raise with like king 10 of diamonds, right? You get a couple calls and the board comes out like king 3-4 with 2 diamonds. Yeah, you might consider checking there. You know, it's kind of the weakish top pair type that, you know, it's kind of the weakish kickers with your top pair, which are sort of top pair and a flush draw hands that you might check. It's not really a slow play. It just makes sense in that you block the flush draws. If you're only going to get action from, you know, a fair amount of kings plus. Of course, you can just always default and bet small too, and, you know, get called by all kinds of things too, as well.
That was that's what Franco did there in the last hand, and he bet 25 after getting 2 callers pre-flop and fold 25 into 65 and fold. That was a topic that came up in the last stream that we were talking about for a while, was just flopping, getting too much. There's nothing really that your opponents can call you with, so it's, you know, checking as an option in those spots. Chad getting rid of the gut shot with the 2 overs there. The gut shot to the nuts with the 2 overs.
So, Dustin, do you ever get out to the World Series? Are you going this year at all?
I do. I usually get out to Vegas every summer. So we do a big satellite program here at Best Bet Jacksonville every year, and we send, I think in the past 2 years we've sent like 40 players out to put them in the main event. So,
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think I see Jesse out there sometimes too, right?
Yeah, I go out there with Jesse and help him with some stuff. I don't play too many World Series events. I play a lot of cash when I'm out there. The cash games are just too good. I don't like being locked into a tournament all day.
At the Rio or just around in general?
Just around.
Yeah.
I mean, the cash games are really good at the Rio. I play at the Rio sometimes, but I like having the freedom to get around, go do whatever I want. Plus, my ROI on tournaments is terrible.
Well, mine was until I won 355,000 last summer. So just live a long time. Keep entering them.
There you go.
You know?
Laws of
Yeah,
attrition,
right.
I'm more of a cash game player. I like having the freedom. I don't like being locked in all day.
Yeah.
I don't like having to be there at a specific time,
One of the things that's absolutely driven me nuts. I've been critical of the World Series. I feel like I have a right to be critical. I was a vendor there. I paid for advertising. I think that they do some things correct and they do some things that can be done better. As we're going to take a look here at Chad betting with Jack 8 and Russ is going to call. So I always like to play this mystery game because this flop, I believe, got checked back. So it's a very easy. So what I was telling you about before, I was like, remember when Chad bet with the Jack 9? It's like, what is he betting if he's going to bet twice here? And it's usually like a strong hand or a bluff. Like if he didn't river an 8, I don't know if he'd be betting here. Russ is going to snap. Oh, Russ, did he fold? We never know what Russ has, but Russ just ended up folding, so he might have had something marginal. But what I was saying is that, there's sometimes some things that WSOP does good, some things they do bad. They're driving me nuts this year with the way that they have basically released the schedule. You probably haven't paid attention to it if you don't play tournaments, but what they basically did this year is instead of releasing sort of most important dates like they usually do, like in one clump, like the gimmick events and the World Series, they'll usually do that like a month ahead of time and then they'll release the schedule. They've been releasing pieces of the schedule like every 1 to 2 weeks, and there's still not a full schedule. I mean, what's the date? We're on February 19th, and the schedule still isn't complete. I mean, the event starts like May 28th. The events start May 28th, and they don't make it clear at this point that the schedule is not complete. There's a lot of events, right? There aren't any gaps.
Right.
None of the structures are up because the schedule is not complete. And there are, probably a dozen events that aren't up there. And I don't know why they did it this way this year. I think it was somebody's dumb idea that it would keep them like in the news cycle, that they'll release these events like every 1 to 2 weeks and they'll get press, but it's just annoying.
Do you think they could just be leaving themselves open to add some new events? Jesse and I actually talked about this a few weeks ago. Like, they might still be trying to slip in some weird events. Like, have you seen that mystery bounty thing that they're doing this year and trying to try some new things?
I don't know. Maybe it is a function of that. That's why they're doing it. And if it is, okay, then I get it. But I tend to think it's just
for you, though.
Yeah. It's Franco here with the flush draw, the king high flush draw. Gonna bet here on the turn after this one got checked through. So Joaquin checked the 9s, and Joaquin does have Jeremy behind him, but Jeremy didn't bet the flop, so he probably wouldn't put Jeremy on a queen. So his hand is probably strong enough to call. And this is interesting. The river is a king. And this is where sort of positional, I think, configuration comes into play, because this is a great sort of little lesson in hand reading. Do you value bet king jack here when you run into top pair? Because Joaquin checked back the flop. He called the turn. He's not going to call the turn with ace-king usually with a guy behind him. So his hand does fare to be like a hand, like a pair between, say, 8s and queens, which is what he has. But Franco is not going to get the call. I mean, there's one event that the reason why it kind of irritates me, Dustin, is because we do a Crush Live Poker meetup every year.
Oh, cool.
And they, we usually do it at the end of the year, right before the main. And then we're probably going to do it again this year. But because of, you know, my new life in Austin, I'm, for the first summer, not going for the whole summer. So I've been trying to plan my schedule out, and they sort of backed the main up a little bit this year, where day 1A is like on a Wednesday, and we usually have our meetup on the Sunday before the day 1A, before the main, which is never usually a problem. But because I'm not going to be in town, you know, I don't want to go for that extra time ahead of time, especially if I'm going to be there for the week of the main. So, you know, there's one event that I like to play, the 2500 OE, which is half 08 and half stud 8. And I was like, well, you know, if this event happens to fall on a different weekend, maybe we'll do the meetup that weekend. But I can't get the schedule. You know what I mean? So everyone keeps asking me, hey, when's the meetup going to be? When's the meetup going to be? And I'm telling them, well, I'm trying to find out when this event is.
Yeah.
And I can't get the schedule, you know, and we're 3 months out. So
that does sound like a really fun event. Back to the mystery bounty. Have you seen this thing? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't. I've heard people say mystery bounty. I don't really know what it means, or you can enlighten me.
So it's kind of a wild concept. Basically, what they're doing is it's a $1,500 buy-in. They're taking $1 million out of the prize pool and randomly distributing it as bounties. Okay.
Across how many bounties?
Every player in the tournament will be a bounty. So the bounties range from being 100. There'll be one player in the field worth 200K as a bounty. Mm-hmm. And then it's like a sliding scale. Like a couple players will be worth, I think, like 25K. And then a couple more players will be worth like 10K. Then you have a couple more 5Ks. And then maybe like some 500s. And then the rest of the field is 100.
So
the big thing is them taking the $1 million out of the prize pool, obviously.
Right. I mean, but that's like any other bounty tournament, though. Like a big chunk of the prize pool is for the bounties. My feeling on that is that just from, and I haven't heard any, you're the first person that told me that, right? Like the idea in itself, it's sort of like a gimmick, right? It's not a bad idea. I feel like something like that could be done much, much easier, like in an online format where it was an automatic. If nothing were to happen logistically, great, that's fine. It seems to me like that's going to be a nightmare. If they don't properly test what they're going to do, I just envision, like I said, I've been dealing with the World Series for 15 years. I've been going every single year since they started in 2005. It sounds like there is a high probability that something will go wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like in a live format. Yeah.
Jesse and I talked about it for a long time, and you know, I think they need something like 800 players just to pay for the bounty. So you need 800 players at 15. So then what? So you get 805 players, and first place wins his money back. You know, like there's a lot of weird.
Oh, so you think that they've taken too much out, basically?
Well,
or I guess that's the idea. That's what they're trying to do. Like it's a sort of, you don't really know where the money's going to be. And when do they assign the bounties? When you get in the money or something like that?
See, that's the other weird thing too. Like say I'm in line to late reg, and then all of a sudden, you know, guy goes, 200K bounty just got hit. Well, I'm gonna go play something else if that's why I'm there. If I'm your average guy or whatever.
Well, I mean, the only thing that would make sense is once the bubble bursts, that's when they assign the bounties, right? Like they would stop.
Or maybe like once reg ends, you know.
I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know that much about it. Like when.
Yeah, logistically, it's really scary.
But yeah, logistically, it just seems like, oh my god.
I'm all for trying new things. I think it's super cool. I think it's a cool idea. Yeah. I think logistically, it's going to be very weird, but I think it's going to be a wild tournament, and it actually sounds kind of fun. You know, more fun than the average 15.
Like I said, I don't mind the idea, but you can see how like something like that would be more suited for like online, where they could just like it would just automatically do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I raised it up here with the ace jack off, and Joaquin here the min 3-bet.
The min click.
Yeah, and this is where, you know, Russ, you know, usually you don't cold call 3 bets in between, but if the initial raiser isn't gonna 4-bet, all that much, then sometimes you can get away with it. Although here, even though ace jack is towards sort of the bottom of a range here, I think I probably would four bet. I mean, you raise and you got min raise and a cold call in between. This is where you talk about like having a bunch of dead money out there that you can take advantage of. So we'll see how much Joaquin can extract here from Franco. You know, obviously you have to continue on with top pair now. I have, wow, is he just going to check fold? Wow, that is really knowing your player. I mean, I was going to say, like, I have made some really exploitable folds to people with turn bets, like with a hand like ace jack. But I mean, again, not to be results oriented, there are certain situations where you can make crazy folds. You know, if a guy is just not going to bet there. If you think that this guy's 3-betting range, Dustin, is ace queen plus, you know, ace queen plus, like ace queen suited plus and say tens plus.
Sure.
And every time he has tens, jacks, or queens on an ace king four board, he's going to check. And every other time when he bets, he has ace queen or ace king or aces or kings, then you can fold ace jack, right? I mean, those are making some very large assumptions, but I mean, that's a very, very large exploit. And in this case, it was correct.
What a sick fold by Franco. Just snap fold. Didn't even think about it.
Yeah. I mean, give him props for paying attention to who it was.
I guess he thinks maybe in that spot he could even make his jack and be no good and then, you know, get cooled for a big one.
I mean, you're not calling for the jack to check call there. You're just calling because you think you have the best hand, right? And it's just like one of these things where it's like, well, if this guy's checking back all the pairs, then he really does have an ace, and he's not 3-betting ace jack, so I'm toast.
It looks like we've got some kind of misclick in the graphics here. There's no way Joaquin has the jack of hearts and the jack of hearts in his hand. He's got two jacks and a flush draw.
That's interesting. That's a new one.
Yeah, that can't be right.
I hadn't seen that. I gotta screenshot this though, because one of the things, so I just screenshot that on my end. One of the things that when the Stones scandal was going on, you know, I come from a perspective that I 100% think if you know, I think I'm one of the experts out here in analyzing hands that he's like 100% cheating. But there was some information from some different sources about how the GFX has errors, how it fails, right?
Sure.
And there was some misinformation about how, like, oh, you can never really have, like, you know, if you got dealt, say, 5-6 of clubs, it would never come up that you got dealt 5 of diamonds, 6 of clubs. I think I want to say it came from Solve for Why. Maybe Matt Berkey said that. And I was like, and I knew it right away when I heard it, that I was like, that's not the case. I've seen this system do some sort of wanky stuff. 2 jack of hearts, that's the first time I've seen that, but it just goes to show you that sometimes some odd things can go on with the graphics. It's not like a total thing where, oh, the cards won't show up.
Sure, and you know, that's something that I talk to, like, a lot of players that come up to me and ask questions about the live stream and stuff. Like, all of this technology and this software and stuff, it's all super new, and there's a ton of moving parts. There's a lot of stuff that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we can do, like, you've been to our production room and you've seen, the only thing that we can do is make it as secure as possible to protect the integrity for the players. But as far as that kind of stuff, like, that's 100% software thing, you know?
Right, but, you know, this would be like I said, as we see 2 people with top pair here, Russ here, you know, Russ is the pre-flop raiser here. Now with ace-9, we're probably, I don't think he's going to go, it would have to be a very special run out, although it is the guy in the big blind that called. I was going to say, it would have to be a very special run out for him to get to value hone himself here for 3 streets with ace-9, unlike that ace-queen hand. It might go, he might check back at some point here now that the king-queen comes in, now that the jack-10 comes in. You know, he might have bet the turn if the turn was like a deuce or a 6. Looks like he's still going to bet. You can see that Franco has now turn top 2. But I do think that if Franco does check call, just check call, There's a fairly good chance that Russ is going to check back at the end. But we might see a check raise here. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Yeah. And I think this is a pretty just easy fold here for us. Pretty easy bet fold. You know, which is a great approach to the style of game. Uh-oh, Russ, you're making me mince my words here. You're gonna make the call. He does have the ace of spades in his hand. I don't know if he's thinking about maybe turning that into a block. Well, yeah, there's a backdoor spade draw out there, but
Kind of a small pot for a hand that's been raised pre-flop, 3-bet on the turn.
well, just, you know, small check raise on the turn.
Sure.
You know, if Russ is playing a game of like chicken here, I think I don't. I mean, here's the thing for Russ too is that he's got the he's got the ace of spades in his hand. Now he's going to get away from it. But I think that's just the one mistake, small mistake that I've seen Russ make here. I probably would just pitch on the turn. But anyways, what I was saying was that you know, even though I absolutely think that there were some shenanigans going on, I'd like to keep all the information correct. And I think there's been some misinformation as to how the GFX will sometimes fail in a hand. People saying that it won't fail this way, when in fact I've seen it fail that way multiple times, basically, is what I'm saying. So it would be a shame to have like Postle's defense team say, well, they say that it won't fail this way, but it does, you know, because the whole thing's going to be all about muddling the facts, right?
I'm with you. They can put both of us on the record as saying it does do some wonky things, and I have more hours on the production side of this thing than anyone that I know. You know, I've seen it do some strange things.
Yeah, I've seen hands where I've seen cards in somebody's hand and on the board.
Right.
I've seen that.
Or 2 jacks making a flush on the turn.
Yeah.
It's a lot of data to come off the table and to process and, you know, to move through the action tracker, to upload the graphics, to go to a computer, to move over to another computer on the delay. Like, just a lot of places where things can go wrong. A lot of information being moved very fast. Jeremy coming out for 110 here on the flop with some mystery cards. Beck still got that big stack. Might look him up here with ace-jack off.
I'm just going to get away from it. Oh, Jeremy's got the jacks.
Thanks again for tuning in, hanging out with us, guys, on this Wednesday evening. Myself and Bart Hansen from Crush Line Poker. We talked about it once already tonight, guys. We dropped that promo in the Twitch chat and in the Facebook chat. Go check out Crush Live Poker. Get yourself a free 37-day subscription. Just drop that code in the promo at what? At checkout, Bart?
Yeah, right at checkout. You can get 37 days for free.
Very cool.
And then, like I said, I put up a lot of content on YouTube too. So Crush Live Poker YouTube. I've done some, been experimenting with some things the last few weeks with some of my videos as well. Not just straight call-in hands, but try to screw around with like the thumbnails and stuff and see if that, I put out a video which was just a regular call-in. As we see another jacks here. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Dustin, see, I was gonna say, I don't know if you just saw that, but we saw jacks before that were frozen. Then we saw another set of jacks, and then we saw somebody just fold jacks. I
Oh, yeah?
think something's going on here with the jacks. Yeah. Because somebody just folded jacks. Which is kind of, that would be a very weird distribution of things to go on. And Russ here 3-betting with the 7 deuce of clubs. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that these cards are not correct. At least some of them aren't. I don't think that Russ is going to be 3-betting the 7 deuce of clubs here. And then somebody open folding pocket jacks.
Maybe we'll get to showdown and we can see them table. We'll know. I mean, 7 deuce is kind of a stretch.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like if I see 2 strange things in a hand go down, like then it starts to be like it's much more likely that it's an error, right? Because I saw somebody fold pocket jacks this hand too. Now Joaquin's hand and Franco's hand are entirely reasonable that they they could have ace jack and queen 10 of spades. Well, maybe we will see a showdown here because if Joaquin's got ace jack.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it looks like it's playing like he might have actually tried to 3-bet 7 deuce. Flops a pair, gets called in 2 spots.
Well, I mean, it looks like he could have 7 deuce, but like I said, I don't know.
We'll never know.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him about that one.
Yeah.
You can make a note of it and we'll watch it in the replay and see.
Sure.
Because I'm nearly 100% sure that someone just folded jack jack.
So, Bart, one thing that you do that I think is cool, I've seen over on the Crush Live Poker YouTube channel, is the phone call-ins. Is that something you still do? And if so, like, walk us through it. How does it work? How often do you do it?
Well, that's what I was. So what I usually was just putting up, we'll do a call-in show on Monday afternoons, and then I'll take the best calls and we'll sort of graphically display them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But the last few weeks, what I've done is I've taken some call-ins that I thought were interesting topics and I made a thumb for it. Like instead of the regular call-in thumb, like there was a video I did a few weeks ago saying like the most reliable tell in poker.
Okay.
Which had to do with best pacing, and it got a ton of views. So I've been experimenting around. YouTube is they got a weird algorithm over there too on, how you get views and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, our flagship is Crush Live Collins.
Franco bombing it over the limpers here in the straddle pot. The domino effect. Franco makes it 6.5x in the straddle pot, and it's still not enough. He gets called in what, 4 spots? Gets called in 3 spots.
So Russ defending the straddle there with the queen 8. Oh, is it a button straddle?
The button straddle from Josh with the queen 10.
Ah, I see. Oh, Russ limped in with queen 8 suited. Getting more short-handed. Not flush draw here for Franco with the ace jack of diamonds. Doesn't look like anyone can really continue though if he puts in a c-bet. Josh is he's got some backdoors, right? He's got backdoor straight draw and backdoor flush draw, but he can't call next to act with 2 people behind him. Possibly like if he was closing the action. Can't mean, he can do whatever he wants. I wouldn't do it. It's not fundamentally, I would say, correct because of the multi-way nature of the pot. Yeah, lets it go. Matt Stacks in the YouTube chat said, Bart, did you play any games when you visited Kansas City? And I did. I got to play in a game that's very, very uncommon there. We were talking about Big O. Occasionally, I would say once a month, when they have the right people that want to play, I played in a 200-400 limit Big O game at the Ameristar. Kansas City was one of the cities that we were considering moving to, my wife and I, but then I stopped being insane and realized that their winters are going to be way too brutal to live there. But I do like the city.
What were the stakes in this game? 100, 200 limit Big O?
200, 400 limit Big O.
200, 400 limit Big O?
Yep.
That's a big game.
It was a big game.
Big O's a pretty swingy game.
Well, Big O, it's not usually played limit, right? So
Right.
it's kind of, it was, and I played in a game like that in Denver one time too, a few years ago. So a couple of these sort of one-off games have been limit Big O.
That game should just be called Show Me the Nuts on the river, right?
You would think so.
Was there a lot of action in that game? I feel like when they play that big in a game like that, it's just show me the nuts on the river.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of recreational players. I mean, it's just like the right group of recreational players that basically play in that game. And actually, I don't. Maybe it was. It might have been just regular 4-card. Actually, now that I think of it, it might have been just Omaha 8. But I did play Big O limit huge like that in Denver. But still, 200, 400 limit 08. Russ here is going to bet call with 10-8. He's got a spade draw, a gutter. He got raised.
Inside straight flush draw.
Yeah, he got raised on the turn. He's going to get away from it here.
So Bart, back to the call and stuff. How does it work? Do you take hands from players email you hands, or do they literally call in?
Yeah,
and talk to you on the phone, or
so we were talking about in the beginning, like I used to just take open calls, right? Whoever wanted to call in a hand can call in, but it got to a point where most of the calls that were coming in were just bad beat stories, cooler hands, or hands that just didn't really they weren't really interesting, right? Like, guys that were super shallow. Where there really wasn't much depth to the hand. So now if somebody wants to call in, they have the email in the hand. So I get now it's like 3 dozen emails a week with submitted hands. So, and then I pick the best ones and I'll email the person back and I'll tell them how to call in. I use a conference software, and then there's a pin and I can put people on hold and mute them. And it works out pretty well.
When you first started talking about it and you said 3 dozen emails a week, I would have taken the way over.
Really? Oh, yeah, but I mean, it's hard to read that many emails. I do read all of them and I actually try to individually respond, but it's getting to a point where if the hand's not good, I sort of use like a copy and paste response, just because I don't have the time or the resources to obviously personally respond with what I would have done in each hand to every single email.
Right, naturally.
So Josh c-bet this sort of ragged connected board. Probably not a play that I'm going to make. He did have he does not have backdoor hearts with the ace queen off. So kind of just I wouldn't say it's a zero equity c-bet. I mean, he's got overcards, but it's usually not the type of board that I'm going to start a c-bet with ace queen. And you can see that Beck here called with basically a gutter to a 9. And then when it got checked to him, he's betting here on the turn. And he'll take it down.
These guys don't seem to mind playing 7-handed. Playing a little short here. How big of an impact do you think going from a 9-handed game to a 7-handed game should have on their opening ranges? Like a huge impact or a small enough impact where it doesn't matter that much?
I mean, you should open. I mean, you could just look at it like, I mean, a really easy way to do it if you're trying to play off of like, oh, I'm going to play these hands from a chart. Like, say you had like a 9-handed chart, and you're like, I play this under the gun, I play this from like MP2. You just take out the first 2 positions, right? So, you know, now your 7-handed under the gun becomes your 9-handed MP1 open. So, I mean, yeah, it's just going to be, you're just sort of moving over in spots. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. A little
Like,
little shortcut.
yeah, like if you're 6-handed, right? There's an under the gun, there's a hijack, there's a cutoff, there's a button, and there's 2 blinds. Right? So once you get past under the gun, now you're in the hijack. That's the second person act. Russ here with the ace jack. Gonna take it down.
Top and no action from the button. He got called in the blinds. Folded around to him on the button and got called by both blinds. Joaquin, I can't say his name all night. We're struggling. I can't.
Just
do
think
it.
of Joaquin Phoenix.
I know. I still can't say it. He's been pretty quiet tonight. He picks up the 9-7, the suited 2 gappers, and wants to get involved. Boy, you've been playing a long time. Has that ever happened to you? You ever get bored at the table and just want to play a hand?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Especially on live streams because, you know, I like to get content that I can use too, right? And it's like sometimes I want to get in there. I just feel like, I don't know, man, the last, say, half dozen live streams, there just hasn't been a lot for me to get involved with. Sometimes it's just streaky like that. I mean, you're not playing that many hands, right? It's live poker.
Right.
I mean, we've played what? We played 3 hours and 15 minutes, right? And have we even played 100 hands? Probably not, right?
Actually, pretty close. This is the 94th hand right here.
Okay, yeah. So Joaquin actually turns the best hand here with the 7, bets it, and he's going to take it down.
All right, we're going to take a quick look at the wins and losses so far after 90-ish hands of 2-5 no-limit deep stack poker. Look at Josh getting ahead of Beck here after Beck got that big double up almost as soon as he sat down. Josh coming out $3 ahead there.
Yeah, and Russ is down like $900, and it came a lot from that one hand where he basically went correctly for 3 streets in that 3-bet pot with the ace-queen, right? Probably lost like $500 on hand.
Russ, one thing I like about Russ is he doesn't discriminate. He just likes to play on the live stream game. If it's 2-2, he's in. If it's 2-5, he's in. He'll play anything we stream. Uh-oh, queen versus the suited connectors here in the straddle pot. Chad been pretty quiet tonight also. He defending in the straddle with the suited connectors.
That's a spot that's, I think, sometimes subtly missed. Like, if I were Chad, I mean, it wouldn't have worked out for him, but I might have started a bet there on the flop win check 2. So he's got the backdoor flush draw, and he's got sort of backdoor kind of straightening cards. Now, you can't take that too much. Like, if he bet the flop and then he was check called, you can't just start to indiscriminately continue barreling when you don't pick up equity, but it's a good way to sort of structure some bluffs.
So then
Because
I
you
think the
can't
next
just
question would be, what do you do if you do pick up some equity? So what do you do if you
you would
turn a
definitely
club
double barrel, or you would definitely double barrel. Yeah, after
Okay.
betting the flop. Yeah, absolutely. Most of these players are playing straightforward. Like when they check after raising pre-flop on a king 4-3 board, they're usually not going to have a king, right?
Right. B. Olsen 10 in the Twitch chat says, Bart, what's up?
What's up, Bielson?
Easy bet and take it there for Beck. Takes that one down. You guys don't forget about our big 2/20/20/20 promotion tomorrow, both locations. $2,020 every hour, 2 p.m. to midnight. Giving away over $20K tomorrow. That's 10 hours. Giving away $2,020. And then this Saturday, we start running mega satellites to get in that $1,500 main event for WPT, deep stacks. Got a 10-seat guarantee this Saturday, and then I think almost every week until the main event, we have a mega satellite to get you guys there on the cheap. Joaquin. There we go. Big slick. And the big blind in the straddle pot.
Couple big hands here, ace, king, and jacks.
Well, he didn't fold, so he probably does really have jacks.
Yep.
Whoa. Doesn't even want
Oh,
to
he
see
just
the flop there.
Wow, he just folded the ace, king. Wow.
Yeah, one bet, a single bet, and a fold.
That's
a creative play.
That's pretty tight.
I didn't even register fold as an option there. In my head, I was thinking, I wonder if he's just going to call or if he's going to 3-bet here. Fold never even crossed my mind.
He just folded to a single raise in the big blind?
Yeah, just to
with the ace king?
straddle pot, he opened. He
Oh,
raised.
okay, and got 3-bet.
Pot,
Yeah.
he opened the big blind.
That is very, very tight.
B. Olsen 10 in the chat says she was watching the bike stream, and then this was recommended me. Hopped in and heard Bart's voice. Always learned so much from him. So got to stay and watch. Cool. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
So Josh here is going to bet with 7-4 clubs, just some backdoors. You can see here, Russ here with top and bottom, going to raise it up. I don't think anyone's going to be able to play with him here.
Michael Moore in the chat says, still can't believe he folded ace-king and a 2-5 deep on the stream. I know, that was a shocker to both of us. Looks like we got another multi-way pot going here. Looks like we're going 4 ways to the flop. Oh, 3 ways. Russ makes top pair with some backdoor flush opportunity. Russ getting the check mark here on the turn. We still can't see Franco's cards. We don't know that he got the check mark there.
Well, Russ calling out of the small blind is kind of interesting, and he called the flop. I mean, he probably has a suited ace here as well. I would imagine, trying to think of the flat calling range, unless he's trapping with a set that he's not fast playing, like deuces or fives, but he didn't bet the river. And now, oh, excuse me, Russ is the one with the ace nine of clubs. Franco is the one with the mystery hand, I was going to say. And wow, Russ just folded there at the end. Yep. Check, call, check, and then that fold at the end.
Franco was the pre-flop raiser there. Russ, maybe after Franco checked the flop, Russ thought he was trying to get a little trappy. Bart here, Big Fish Poker in the Twitch chat says, currently play 1-2 in England and have a decent 5 to 8 big blind hourly. Would you compare the level of 1-2 in England to USA 2-5, or you have any, or do you have the experience outside of the USA? He loves your YouTube content.
Well, I don't have any experience outside the USA. I do know that the drop and rake in Europe is huge. So, you know, if you're making 5 to 8 big blinds an hour and they're dropping 2 to 3 big blinds a hand, that's a pretty good win rate. But I can't tell you how, you know, 1 pound, 2 pound relates to 2-5. And then, you know, one of the things that we talked about tonight is that the blind size just, it varies from place to place. I mean, a 2-5 game in Texas is a 10-20 game everywhere else, right? A 5-5 game in LA with a 500 cap plays rather small, right? Jacksonville's got a 2-5 800 game, so it's sort of in between. I've seen 2-5 1500 games in Las Vegas. So it's more about the structure of the buy-in, I would say, that sort of dictates how big the game plays, the skill level, the amount of money that can be won.
I mean, yeah, I've seen some, you know, the uncapped games and the match the stacks game. I think those are always going to play much bigger. There's a 1-3 game in Biloxi that with no cap that is, they buy in for $3K.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what? I think that says E squared in the Twitch chat says, is this just a random streamed table? So it's just our Wednesday night cash game. we do this a couple times a week. We just stream a cash game from our Best Bet Jacksonville live stream location. And Bart Hansen from Crush Live Poker was nice enough to join us remotely for the commentary, and here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, E-squared, we run these games a couple times a week. It's not always 2-5. Sometimes we do 2-2 deep stack. Sometimes we do, like this Saturday, we're doing a 5-10-25. Chad flopping top and bottom here. Josh makes a pair on the turn. ML0983 in the chat. Yeah, that's cool. Thank Bart for joining us, you know. Chad getting a little value here on the river from 2-pair.
Yep.
Nice flop check. All right, we got a couple more hands for you guys here. All you guys tuning in the chat, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. For all you guys that have been tuning in since the radio show this afternoon, you know, that's always super cool, all of our chat regs. We appreciate the support. One of our Twitch regs won an $85 satellite seat in the radio show giveaway and spun that up into $11,000 this past weekend.
Wow.
In our one-day 30K.
So Beck here with the jacks, gonna make a 3-bet.
Wow, look at Josh here with the open and the flush draw.
Yeah, this is an action hand here, right? We get an overpair, we got top pair, and we've got that 15 out combo draw. So you wonder if Josh is going to play this as a check raise. This is the first time we've seen like a matchup of overpair versus a hand that might check raise on a ragged board. And there's the check raise.
There it is. Black chips are in play.
And the interesting thing about this is that, you know, this is the type of board where there aren't really two pairs that are possible, especially in a 3-bet pot. Now, if people are playing deuces and threes as just a fold to a 3-bet, then he really doesn't have many sets here either. So sometimes, even though the draw is really big, you don't play it fast because you're not representing all that much. Again, we've seen people be really sort of far off from where they should be pre-flop, so he probably could have deuces and threes here as a flat. I think Franco is going to be forced to fold here in between, but this will be interesting because if you're, back here with jacks is the one that's in between. So for some reason, I thought jacks was the last hand here. He might get jacks to fold.
These guys both almost they're both pretty deep too, right? They both almost have 400 big blinds.
Yeah, this is an interesting one here because like Franco blocks top set. I mean, he does have a club in his hand. I'd almost rather be in, I would rather, if you were to say, hey, Bart, what spot would you rather be in there? Would you rather have Beck's hand with jacks with a player to left to act behind, or would you rather have Franco's hand with 9-8 closing the action? I think I'd probably take Franco's spot. It's hard for jacks there because he's got a player behind him and he doesn't have absolute position over the hand. But then once Beck folds and Franco's last to act, I don't think that I would fold top pair there. But again, this is why, like I said, it goes back to sort of crush live poker old school stuff where I say you can attack these types of dynamic boards. People just basically call based upon their hand strength. You know, Franco doesn't want to play a big pot with 9-8 off as top pair, not the pre-flop raiser.
Looks like we got a four-way limp fest. Wow, Franco with 90% of the equity in the hand off the rip. Gets the check mark. Josh still in the hand with the ace of hearts. Wow, Franco needed a heart to come in there one time and really play for some big stacks maybe.
Yeah, but Beck just made a straight though at the end here. Beck just made a straight here at the end with 9-10, so.
Oh, you're right.
So he's going to get some value here.
Bets 50 into 195. Franco might have been trying to keep Josh.
Did Franco just call with Queen Jack there?
Yeah,
wow.
I was just wondering about that. Do you think he's just trying to keep Josh in the hand? Get an overcall from Josh there?
I mean, that's must what he must have been what he was doing. Yeah, I don't know what to say there. I mean, you got to get max value from the guy that's betting, right? From out of position.
Maybe he's hoping Josh makes a flush there and comes over the top. That was a weird one.
But now Steven Gorski says, I don't think there was a jack on the actual board. And again, like I was looking at something else, and I kind of go back to, I think the cards have been a little bit odd here. And I wonder if that, so Stefan says the board might not have been correct. And that makes a lot more sense, Dustin.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Bielson says, I listened to too much Crush Live to know that's not a good play. Like I said, I think that there was something strange going on there. You would obviously want to target the guy leading out.
Chad and Josh sharing cards here on the Jack-Eye board.
So Franco's going to bet here with 9s, gutter to a 10. Looks like he actually has the best hand. And Josh going to raise here with the ace, queen, and the ace of diamonds. So we saw the Franco fold the 9-8 off a few hands ago, right?
Yeah, this hand Franco's got the best hand. He's also got the blockers to the straight. He's got the blocker to the straight flush draw.
He's going to let it go.
Josh takes that one down, button moves, and we're on to the next hand.
I just won the bump not too long ago. Before the flop. Yeah. And then we go straight to the flop. Yeah, with the so you played him. It's $25. And then you bet the turn in river. Yeah, yeah. It just starts on the flop. The bet. Can you play them here normally? Can you play them at this casino? Yeah. Like normally at the other. Upon a player agreement.
E squared in the chat says, would it have been wrong to peel one there? I feel like there was good equity and a call a lot there. You must be talking about the pocket nines in that pass hand. Sure. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he was.
Peel one time with the gutter ball and the blockers.
I mean, nines with the 9 of diamonds. You know, it's basically second pair to the board, right? You've got a gutter to a 10. Diamonds might shut down the action. You've got some backdoor equity. I probably would have called one too. Stefan Gorski says, yeah, he just checked the replay, and that turn was a 10 in that hand, not a jack. So
that makes a lot more sense.
Did not have the full house. I think that it's something to do with the jack of hearts, Dustin, here tonight. It's caused us some trouble.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. It seems like we've had that that card have an issue before.
And JP says, well, what did he have? Trip queens. Didn't they push the pot to the other guy who had the straight? But the jack, but because the jack was actually a 10, the other guy didn't have a straight. He was betting with the 10. So trip queens won the hand. Nut flush draw here for Beck with the ace jack of spades and a gutter here to a 9. And he actually checks back the flop, which is pretty interesting. He called pre, did not bet the flop when the pre-flop raiser checked to him. Now he bets the turn, and now he just lets it go to showdown. And I think Beck probably missed the opportunity to win that hand by starting with some aggressive play.
We haven't really seen Beck do a whole lot since he got that big double up. He's just kind of been blinding off, calling a couple raises here and there. Wow, big flop for some junky hands. Look at Franco making 3 queens with the deuce.
Yep, the old live at the bike Iron hand here with the queen deuce.
Somebody brought that up earlier in the chat. You guys have some history? Is that why they brought it up in the chat?
No, it's the Iron hand is queen deuce, and well, queen deuce makes quads. This guy on live at the bike likes to always play queen deuce, so that was a
somebody mentioned in the chat.
There.
They asked if you were going to give him a shout out. They said no shout out for Israeli Ron.
Well, there's the shout out.
Quads for Franco.
And obviously, you know, hoping that somebody has an ace or a king here to call.
Wouldn't even count for the high hand. You got to use 2 cards in that spot.
Ah, what's that? So the high hand is some. What do you get for a high hand for like 4 queens?
So it changes every day. I think today we're running like 300 every 20 minutes. So the highest hand in the room every 20 minutes picks up quick $300. But you got to use 2 cards. So in that spot, he's playing quad queens with an ace, but he's holding quad queens with a deuce. Joaquin getting in there. Ace-7 offsuit. Look at Chad defending the button straddle here with the 9-4 off. All right, guys. Sounds like this might be the last hand of the night. I think I just heard the dealer announce that one. Talking about doing a bomb pot, I think. Bart, you have any quick tips in bomb pots?
Well, bomb pots, I mean, yeah, bomb pots are, well, you're dealing with all uncapped ranges, right? So I think it's very, very positionally important to recognize where you are, right? The person in position has a huge advantage because, you know, if you're in the big blind and the board comes out, say, Jack 4-4, right? And the small blind bets out and you have like King Jack. Remember, you have 7 people left to act behind you. So that just becomes a fold in a bomb pot. Whereas if you're on the button and you're closing the action, you have seen everyone act before you, right? So the strength of your hand as it connects with the board relates to your position, especially on the flop. So of course, a bomb pot is when everybody puts in basically what is an ante, and then they deal the flop, and then you play regular. So you see like everyone in the hand here. So it's entirely uncapped ranges by definition. In Texas, we actually do double board bomb pots, which are split between the best hand on both boards. It's kind of interesting.
It's pretty sick.
So here, Franco with ace-9 has the best hand. And one of the other things too about bomb pots is you probably should be making a lot of protection bets, meaning that sometimes like if you were in a regular poker hand, you might not bet ace-9 here on a dry board. Like he checks this back, but I think that's a mistake. You're just, well, I guess he knew the ace was coming, but there are so many different cards. There are no ranges, right? So if it gets checked to you and you check it back and you don't make a protection bet, you're entirely in the dark. You're just basically giving up free equity.
I mean, and there's a ton of dead money out there also, right? And so you
That
probably
too,
don't have
yeah.
to make a lot of big bets because
Right.
people are going to have so much garbage. They're going to have all kinds of kicker problems. They're going to have scare cards. You probably don't have to make huge bets just to get after the dead money.
So Josh bets out on the turn here with a 7, and I don't understand this bet here. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, unless he thinks he's going to get called by a worse 7. I mean, I guess it's just a block bet, but I don't understand why you can't check the river and then evaluate. You could either check call or check fold based upon whether or not you think you have the best hand in the pot odds, but not quite sure why you bet that sizing with a 7 when you're never really going to get, you could never get called by worse. So
we're going to leave you guys on that note. That's going to be the last hand of the night. Bart, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a lot of fun. You're great at what you do. We appreciate it. Crush Live Poker, for those of you guys that don't already know.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And hopefully I will be able to do this in the future too. It's nice that we have the ability to do this remotely. Maybe I can commentate on a big game, you know, on one of these Saturdays or something.
Yeah, super cool, man. Thanks again. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. It's been a lot of fun. Good luck out there in Austin, man. I hope you get after them, crush them, show them what's up.
I appreciate it. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys catch us Saturday night for that big 5-10-25 game. Until then, myself and Bart Hansen, you guys have a good night.